to a Sunday at 2 p.m. We are live. It's about time, isn't it? Really? It's about time. The frustration is palpable in Ireland. We're so uptight at the moment. We are like a coiled spring waiting to kill somebody on every possible occasion. If that's if, of course, Twitter is anything to go by. Thank you very much for joining me again today. It is 2 p.m. It is Sunday. It is time for the Sunday service. Bless you all for coming along again. It's always good crack to be here. I swear to God, this is something I really look forward to. I missed it while I was off, so we'll come back on this week. Now, won't be here next week, but we'll get to that later on in the service. Loads of people already in the chat asking questions and doing stuff as we have kicked off today immediately. I put the title in as lockdown ended because Laois, woohoo, and Offaly is out of lockdown. But Kildare, unfortunately, you're on your own, babies. You've got all of the meat packing plants there. It's not house parties, as they would like you to believe that it's house parties, as if you know, house parties, of course, are causing all of these outbreaks. Realistically, it is more like the meat packing plants, factories, but meat packing plants seem to be at the heart of it because they're so close together and so tight together, and that's probably the biggest issue that they have there. But we don't have a meat packing plant in Laois. Laois should have never been in lockdown. We have a centre here just on the edge of Laois for refugees, and that would be why we went into it, because we were stuck into that same thing. Beautiful. Just got a reminder from YouTube to say that I'm live on YouTube. Did you know that? I'm live on YouTube right now, this very minute. I was live on TikTok last night. I now have over 1,000 followers on TikTok. I didn't expect that. So I went live last night for the crack and ended up talking for an hour and a half while I was making out the Sunday service for today, which is kind of weird. Totally different audience. Nobody knew me. I know a few of them did, in fairness. It was good fun. Mark Turner-Smith can't be here today. He's off mountain biking. That's good for you, isn't it? I love a bit of mountain biking. Haven't done that in a long time. Haven't done any bike. I was supposed to do a race with BMW from Mondello to Wicklow and back again, but they've postponed it now to 2021, which is pretty much what everybody should be doing at this stage. Just postpone what's going on to 2021 and leave it at that, right? Golfgate is kicking off in Ireland and kicked off properly yesterday. And, I heard rumours of it the day before. Irish Examiner broke the story, really good. There was a lot of people on that story trying to get it done. Journalism at its best in Ireland again, and hopefully will continue in that respect. Golfgate is, in case you're not aware, it has now become a European problem because Phil Hogan is in there as well, is a group of 81 individuals who are in political realm of things. Some of them are bankers, some of them are ambassadors to Monaco. There's a few in there. All decided that they'd break all kinds of lockdown and go down to Galway, get together in a room, and the hotel got this together so they had them in two rooms separately from one another, but actually everybody was in one room, and have some talking and speeches and stuff, and have absolutely no social distancing and no respect for all of the businesses who have gone out of business and will not be reopening, and all the people who are going to lose their homes, and all the people who are in trouble when this whole COVID thing ends and we all start to get back to work, without any respect whatsoever. Went in there, got together and had their little chats and never got back out of it again. But it was broken. The story's broken now, and of course we're out. Golfgate is out now. They're all playing golf together. Some of them had come back. Phil Hogan had come back from playing golf in Holland or somewhere. He had just returned, and he has gone back to Brussels. He's gone after being in Wednesday, after being in a group in a room with 80 odd individual people, without any social distancing, without any tests. He has gone back to Brussels, where he belongs, and I hope he never comes back. No, I hope he stays over where he is. It'd be great. William Bellingham is here as well. Hope to see you doing well. We are doing very well here. Yes, we are. Looking forward to a few days off. I'm going to take a few days, actual holidays, because even though you don't see me putting videos out, I'm always filming a video, or I'm always editing a video, or I'm always doing something on social media, or building up something else, or doing something else around the edge. So I'm actually going to take a few days off now, so I'm going to put the phone away and I won't be here to answer your questions. I already have relaxed on Facebook. I find Facebook a very, very negative space at the moment, really negative space. And if you're even the slightest bit struggling in your mental health in any way, shape or form, Facebook is going to be your downfall. It is going to hurt you. It is going to hurt anyone who goes there at the moment. It's really negative spot. Not necessarily talking about the Sunday service, but I do find that there's a lot of people posting the Sunday service about electric cars and electric this, and they're trying to do it. So I'm going to create an extra couple of moderators on the Sunday service and let the hammer of justice come down and all that sort of stuff, or I will go in and do all that, one or the other. I don't mind making enemies out of people. It's meant to be a positive place, the Sunday service community, not to be a place to be baited into an argument all the time, but I think that is the nature of Facebook. I really do think that if you're on Facebook and you're looking at Facebook, that's exactly what Facebook is doing to you right now, is baiting you into something, which is why I kind of like TikTok at the moment, because TikTok doesn't bait you into anything. They just scroll, just go, ban, block, whatever you don't like, block, move on. It's not a space for conversation, and I kind of like that. It's great. Frank Metcalf, congratulations on your lockdown freedom. Still in lockdown. Oh, Frank, I know. Kildare, man. I passed through it on the way to Dublin, going to work, obviously, to pick up my cars. I had a BMW 3 Series with the trees with the branches growing out of it, or a 3 Series with the number on it. But I had a BMW 3 Series PHEV earlier on the week, and God, the chassis on that car is so good. It's so well put together. Now, the PHEV bit is a bit annoying. 40-50 kilometers range, more like 40 if I'm honest. But I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was really good. It was a nice drive. It felt good. It felt planted. A little bit like carrying a kind of heavy American in the boot around with you the whole time, and you lose a lot of boot space because the batteries are in there. But after that, it was pretty good. That was a really nice car. I currently have the Volvo S60. Wouldn't recommend the S60 to you. It's okay, but it's definitely not the market leader in that segment. It's the best looking from the A4, BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class and Volvo S60. The Volvo S60 has it on looks, but after that, it starts to fall apart. After that, it kind of dribbles downhill a little bit because it's not great to drive. The gearbox is confused constantly about what gear to be in. It's a petrol engine in that one out there. No PHEVs or nothing else about it, it's just petrol. Touchscreen feels a little bit old-fashioned. It's all a little bit compromised, and I think that's down to lack of funding, I think. And Volvo got a lot of money and put a lot of it into the XC90 and put up that into the market, and kind of went after that and left the S60 on its own. So it feels a little bit older than the rest of the cars. In looks wise, it's ahead, but the 3 Series has it on pretty much every other front. The Audi A4 is okay, but a bit boring. Eric Rochford is here as well. Good man, Eric Rochford, thank you very much. Here, the Flavonite Disciple, as we've decided now, everybody who's a subscriber on the channel is called a Flavonite. So I'm going to make a t-shirt with I am a Flavonite written across the front of it, just for the crack. We'll get that. I put a new t-shirt up yesterday. Actually, my daughter Sophie has a little character that she calls Blob, and she wanted to make a hoodie or a t-shirt so she'd get one for herself. So I made one and we put it up on. So it's a little blob faced little guy. She's been drawing it since she was 4 or something, a long time ago. So we made a t-shirt of it. Flavonite Disciple says, afternoon everybody, just getting dinner with 80 people. It's okay, it's important. You can turn it into mass. If you turn it into mass, keep it indoors. You can have that, but you can't have mass outside. And you can't have a gathering any bigger than 6 people in your house. But if your house is spread across a couple of acres, you can try 80 to 81 people at that and see what happens. None of it makes any sense, lads. None of this really makes any sense. The only thing that makes sense is stick a mask on if you're going into a crowded situation, and well, stay home as much as you possibly can until we get this out. Once this is all over with, we look back at this. Can you imagine what the reeling in the years from 2020 is going to look like? Where to even begin to work out what 2020 was like? I should have went into hibernation around March and stayed there for the rest of the summer. Andy FX7 is here. Come on, Andy FX7, good to have you. Dan Jam, freed Bob 1. Yeah, Bob, fist in the air. Here we go. Darren O'Shea and 2 doctors here in St. Bridget's Ward in St. Vincent's, waiting for the Sunday service. Highlight of our week. Keep up the great work, Bob. Best in the business. Thanks very much. Good to have you aboard St. Vincent's Hospital, doing the most important job of all, of course, trying to get us all back to full health, which is what all hospitals do. You know, they don't necessarily just fix us when we're sick. They do all kinds of other services for us as well, and they support a huge amount of jobs and downstream jobs and that as well. So they're a huge thing to take on for the entire country. So that you do the best of work, and I hope the best of luck to you. Stay safe and keep going for as long as you possibly can. We still need you. You know, we still need you. We still might be complaining about COVID lockdowns and being sick and all that sort of stuff, but you know, we still need our hospitals to operate at full capacity and do what they can do. And of course our cancer patients and people who have nothing to do with COVID, outside the COVID thing. And you know, I lost my brother last year to cancer as well. So, and he spent time in St. Vincent's. But it's like, it's just that point of the year where we have to think about that sort of stuff beyond what we would normally do, beyond that level of normal sort of day-to-day running stuff. I'm looking for something while I'm talking as well, which I shouldn't be doing. I should just shut up and get what I'm looking for. No, I can't find it now. Anyway, I had a little thing from the COVID app, a little screenshot that says everybody's 100%, nobody's sick. It says on the app. It's really good. Brian O'Donnell, hi Bob and gang, hope all is safe and well. We are, so far so good. Yeah, Mark already, afternoon all from sunny-ish County Meath, middle of the country, kind of up north of me, but over sort of towards the east part of it. Most of Dublin seems to live in Meath these days. Zdenko is here. Brian O'Donnell says, heard a rumour that in the next budget there will be big increases to the new diesels and petrols in the next budget. Heard from 2 different dealers. Who knows, maybe true. Well, okay, so what's happening in the car market that would support that or deny that? So supporting it, we're looking at lowering the CO2 emissions, and of course the Green Party are doing their blah 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 blah, blah stuff that says, of course, the enemy of the world now is the internal combustion engine. It's the enemy of everything. Let's just all cycle bikes like we're not supposed to go anywhere anymore. Let's all buy overly priced, hugely catastrophically expensive electric cars. And that's going to save the world somehow. You know, they did that as well back in about 2008, 2009, 2010. They did exactly the same thing, funny enough, when they said that diesels was going to save the world. It's the lowest CO2, it's the best thing ever. That was the Green Party as well. And I have, of course, evidence to support that one. And here we are again, back to square one. We're going to start taxing the petrol and diesel cars off the road. And, you know, we have 2.5 million cars on the road and less than 3% of them are electric. What are we going to do? Where's all the money going to come from? What's going to happen? How's that going to happen? Like, if you don't get out and protest in this budget about a tax increase on petrol or diesel or CO2 emissions or carbon emissions, if you don't protest, you've only got yourself to blame. Because every year I protest. Every year I send a letter to my local TDs saying, if you increase the tax take or the CO2 emissions take on petrol and diesels, you will drive people off the road, which will drive people out of work. That is all that's going to happen. That is going to be a result of it. The net result of increasing CO2 or putting it onto the fuel pumps and not giving people a break in the background means they can't afford a car anymore. What do you do then? How do you commute to work? The train that doesn't go anywhere near work? You know, not everybody works in Dublin city centre, lads. Some people, actually the vast majority of people who are employed in Dublin work on the outskirts of Dublin. So they work in places like Ballymount or Sandyford or north up towards the airport, up towards Swords. There is no trains up there. There is no train going to get you there. So you're kind of screwed. But to support getting CO2 emissions down, the way to get people off the road is to make a conscious decision. It is the way we've worked for years. You make people socially acceptable to make a conscious decision about changing your car. And if you are patient, as any good government should be, you should be patient in what you want. There's many other things the Department of Transport can be doing right now. If I was Minister for Transport in the morning, the very first thing I would do is connect up by footpath and cycle path all towns in Ireland, all major towns, smaller towns and satellite towns around Ireland, which would encourage people to walk to another town or to cycle to another town instead. And it would just encourage it. Just start people off doing it. Look at the Waterford Cycleway, how much of a success that has been. We're going to do something similar here in Portlaoise, a cycleway on an old train track that we have here that isn't used anymore. So that's how you encourage change. You don't force change by taxing it. This is a thick, stupid idea that people in Ireland who think they know what they're talking about go out and do. And then don't realise the ramifications of later on that it backfires on them. 99% of stuff backfires on them. TS says car supermarkets low on stock, not enough as new ones are being sold. Well, that's a problem as well. Second-hand car market is very much up. I mean, very up. There is no discounts to be had. You could sell your second-hand car right now very quickly. People are really dying to get into second-hand stuff. But the problem is that new car market in Ireland is down by 18%, and that won't have a carry-on until 2 years, 3 years from now. You'll find that there's a drop in the market. But if you go back about 3 years, we had that same drop. We had quite a drop in the market over the last 3 years. So we're not getting a replenishment stock. So as people want second-hand cars, there's not enough new cars being sold. That's a big issue, a really big issue. It's not getting any easier for car companies out there And I know what people are going, well, these car dealerships are coming out and saying that CO2 emissions are brilliant. You realistically can't go till 2040. But you know, there's no electric cars, lads. The stocks are so low on electric cars, on all cars, but electric cars included. Where do we get all the cars from? Kia and Hyundai have said that their stocks are quite low on battery stuff, and they can't get enough stuff to fill demand. Tesla, well, they haven't opened their Berlin place yet. They're still making the stuff out in California, and the US is absorbing most of their cars. And then you're left, what are you left with? Nissan. What Nissan are you going to buy exactly? Honda? Well, Honda's about to get sold. I think Honda Ireland's going to get sold off to somebody else. They've no money left. So will Citroen Ireland. They'll go too. The money is disappearing for these car companies to make these huge, huge transitions into electric cars. So where are we going to go from there? Do we just dispose of? We'll walk. We'll do what all the Dublin people, these Twitter accounts who start up, and there's no one particular one. They all seem to want to do it. Is everybody should walk or cycle? And that's the end. Just walk or cycle. Now there you are. There's your problem. So you need to get to the airport. Take a taxi. Spend 20, 30, 40 euro on a taxi to the airport instead of a fiver to drive out there in a car. It's crazy stuff. It's like this sort of insanity among people. Footy Ferrari says, afternoon Bob, what's the S60 like? Not bad. Did describe it a minute ago, but yeah, not bad. It's okay. I'd still have a BMW 3 Series now. If I was looking at one of those kind of cars, a 3 Series or a C-Class would be kind of where my head is. A4 is okay. Volvo S60 is different. It's gorgeous looking. If you're really into the looks of the car, it's very good, but it's not great to drive. Not very engaging, or not enough anyway. Many people are watching right now. Oh yeah, okay, we're good, yeah, 302 is fine. Noel Davis, an afternoon Bob, could you have made the happenings over the last week up Golfgate, Kildare still locked? No, the last 2 weeks, in fairness, since Fianna Fáil have come into power, since Micheál Martin has taken over, the country has had its own problems. And then if you look at the UK, look at Boris Johnson's just gone missing. It just seems to have just fallen off a cliff somewhere. I don't know where he went. Maybe he's been killed and replaced by somebody else because he's too much of a lunatic. I'm not sure what's after happening there, but he seems to have disappeared. And then in our own country, in Ireland here, we have the three amigos there at the top. One lad asleep, Eamon Ryan asleep, and just literally asleep when he had to vote on a minimum wage increase, I think it was, or something like that. It was some low paid workers' rights thing he was supposed to vote, and he voted no for that. After he woke up long enough, he voted no. And then he went back to sleep after giving themselves a pay rise. They all got a pay rise, did you know that? All of them. And they all got their super junior minister rises now. They got all that. They live in a different world, I think, than the rest of us. I really do think that the vast majority of these leaders we elect to put up there are in a different, just not connected up the way the rest of us are. I really do think so. It's kind of a weird place to be. Where was I? Niall McHugh, howdy folks, great to see you all. Good man, Niall, good to have you here. Darren Kavanagh, good afternoon. Bob was watching the new one TikTok last night. Good man, Darren, good to have you, boy. I'm on TikTok. I am. Well, let's see if I can find me. Hold on there. I have 1,060 followers. I only got 1,000 last night, so 60 more today. There it is there. My profile is there. You'll find Bob Flavin Official. How do you share that? I don't know how to share that. I'm not well up on TikTok just yet. I've been watching a lot of it. It's fun. It's fun. Lots of dancing people. Lots of people enjoying themselves and showing you what the world is like in their own eyes. And you can kind of like and dislike stuff. And it's just a cool little place to be. It's nice. You'll find me there a little bit more often. It's quite handy to make videos on as well. Samsung S10. Someone's called Samsung S10. You're called after a phone. Did you know that? Or is that your real name? I wonder if there's actually someone in the world called Samsung S10. Anyway, what's happening with Mercedes Dieselgate issue? Are they guilty? I did say on the Sunday service when Volkswagen's system went all wrong back in 2015 that Volkswagen are not alone in tampering with diesel. They have not been alone. They were never alone. Volkswagen share a lot of their technology with a lot of other companies. A lot of other companies were looking at Volkswagen going, how do you get 120 grams CO2 out of that 2-litre diesel? And they started manipulating as well. So Mercedes are involved, BMW always denied that they were involved in anything, but they were playing with something. Audi are now again being investigated for more problems that they're after causing. Some button you could click on a dashboard that was able to change how much CO2 could come out of the car. Volkswagen are already in the pot for 50 billion euro in fines over what they've done. From various fines, not just one thing, multiple things across. It's not going to be a good year to be in Volkswagen. Imagine going to work every single day as the managing director of Volkswagen Group, and the first thing you're announced with is, how big is our fine today? And the man goes, 50 billion, sir. And from there, your day goes downhill. So that's kind of a weird one. But yeah, that's where Volkswagen is right now. They're in real trouble. I don't know they don't have a good solution to this. No one has a good solution to this. They've run into so many problems with ID3 as well, trying to get the software sorted, trying to get the battery sorted, trying to get supplies sorted. Their factory got shut down. They started making the things. Everything starts to fall apart. It's hard to keep up with all this sort of stuff, but they'll be okay. Volkswagen, I think, make €9,000 a minute or a second. I can't remember which one it is, but it's a lot of money per second or per minute. TS says viruses like to cold, Bob. They don't actually. They like temperate climates like ours. So a virus goes asleep when it freezes. That's essentially what happens. So you won't get a virus in the Arctic, right? And on the other end of the scale, in very hot countries, same problem happens. And also viruses are killed by UV light. So places that have a lot of sunshine, a lot of dry air, you don't tend to get a cold air. Ergo, I will not, when I get to retirement age, be retiring in this miserable grey hole of a country. I'll be moving down to Spain or Portugal or Morocco or somewhere that's dusty and dry, so I won't get arthritis and sitting, oh please change me nappy. Ain't gonna happen to me, boys, no way. I'll be doing the Sunday service from my home in Marbella. Hellhound is here. Come on, Hellhound. Good day to you, Bob. Live in chat. Come on, Marty O. Afternoon, Bob and gang. Welcome back, sir. Thank you. Joyce O'Grady is here as well. Afternoon. Good to see you. Nice little wave. Thanks very much, Joyce. You're very good to join us. Alan Burke. Hi, Bob. What can you tell us about camper van insurance higher than car? Thanks. No, not really. Often it depends on mileage. So camper vans don't tend to do a lot of mileage. Now, if you want to insure it fully comprehensively against third-party fire, theft and contents, so you have to be very careful, because camper vans and caravans can often be classed as houses. Essentially, it's the same as insuring your house. So you don't just insure your house against lightning strikes and, falling down or cracks in the roof or whatever. You also insure the contents of the house, which could be anything. You could have gold bars in your attic or something, right? And need to insure them as well. So camper vans are the very same. You insure it first primarily as a vehicle, so it's vehicle insurance that you drive on the road against third party fire and theft, against that vehicle thing, but the contents come up with something else. So if you put in that you got TVs and PlayStations and other stuff inside the camper van, that will drive up your insurance. But if you want to get the best insurance, go with ask around. Literally go to forums where camper van people or caravan people from your local country hang out and ask questions, and ask them about insurance companies. One of them will have done something through a broker who specialises in camper vans, and they will know what you're talking about, and you'll often get a discount when you go in with some sort of club thing. So it's worth your while. Really reach out to communities. It's always about sticking with the community that's good for you. That's why a lot of classic car collectors will hang about with other classic cars of that same thing. So the Ford group of Ireland will do some sort of a classic car collecting thing as well. Got a drink of water already. I didn't even work out today. I'm going to go for a run after this. By the way, if you want to keep your really mental health going, exercise. It's absolutely brilliant for you. It's very good for you. David Harmon. Bob, great to see you. Thanks. Great to see your name as well. Brilliant. I started driving for work instead of the train. 160 miles a day on motorways. Currently in a Smart for 2. Whoa, that must hurt. What car would you recommend for this high mileage? Something big and comfy and diesel. Anything from the Volkswagen Group diesel, like a Volkswagen Golf or a Octavia or Seat Leon or any of those kind of cars that are out there. Buy something, because you're only commuting, so buy something that's reasonably cheap. Don't buy petrol, because 160 miles a day is a big mile. So that's a lot of miles, right? So diesel's the only one going to be able to do that for you. Something cheap, something reliable, something you don't mind putting a lot of miles on, but you don't mind sitting in when there's a breakdown on the motorway somewhere, David. One of those days we're sitting there, you want to have a bit of air conditioning and good stereo, Bluetooth, podcast, streaming stuff, something that'll pass the time for you in that journey. Bless you on your Smart for 2. I've driven Smart for 2 many times overseas. They're brilliant cars, but 160 miles, I think I'd kill the passenger. Open the door and jump out as you're driving on the road. I'm driving me mad. The noise of them, they're awful noisy things. But then you see them in a place like Rome, And there's 3 of them parked in a single space that a normal car would take up. There's 3 little smart for 2s there as well. It's brilliant. Ocean Froggy, how's she cutting, Bob? Cutting fine. She is. And sharp me blades recently. It's all caps today. There's lots of capital letters. Everybody's very angry. There's a seething mass of Irish people out there at the moment because of course our fearless leaders went off and broke lockdown to go and have a little lovely day out playing a bit of golf, and then around inside in a room to have little speeches and tell each other how brilliant they are. Oh, you're all brilliant. Oh, now you're in charge of all the banking in Ireland. Oh, you're brilliant. Oh, you're sure deadly. For some strange reason, the ambassador to Monaco was there. Why was that? I have the list of all the people who were there. It was sent to me by a very nice person, and I tweeted it, so I don't care. It makes no difference to me. People didn't retweet it, just going to go, no, don't want. Let's not get involved in that. But like Noel Grealish has dropped off the face of the earth, but Minister Dara and Siobhan is gone as well. Commissioner Phil Hogan is there as well. Noel and Bernadette Dempsey, don't know who that is. So many names on the list. Like one name sticks out in a big group there as well. Is where is he gone? Brian Hayes. He's the guy in charge of the banking. He's the lobbyist in charge of banking in Ireland, and he's in there in the middle of all of that with other bankers, the ones he's supposed to be keeping an eye on. Just not saying that they all sit at the same tables, and among them, of course, is Sean O'Rourke, RTE journalist. Wasn't the only journalist there, as far as I'm aware as well. You know, there's people who weren't invited who were journalists who were on that list. Anyway, we'll move on first to get done for saying somebody's name that I shouldn't. Annie McAfee says, I'm here, been here since the start in a car via BT, stuck in a forest, walking the dog in mega rain. You're walking the dog in a car? Are you walking around circles inside the car? Or you got out of the car and walked around the forest, or you're driving around the forest with the dog in the car? That's a very confusing message, but I like it. Mick Mulcahy's here as well, good man. Glad to see you. Alan Akister. I have to pronounce your name, Alan, so sorry. I would never buy a BMW, ever, rather than walk and buy a company's product. Very sharp words on BMW. What's wrong with BMW? Did it do something on you? Was there some reason behind that? Give us the reason. Don't leave us hanging like this. Tell us why you hate BMW so much. Go for it. Doom Nomatron is now following you on Twitter. What? That's a good name, I have to say. Would love you to support the channel if you possibly could. It'd be really good. There is a list of links down below. You can support the channel in multiple ways. We do have a sponsor on the way. It is coming, definite. I will announce the details of that in the coming couple of weeks for sure. There'll be a sponsor here, a good one too, and getting you guys a deal to go with that sponsor as well, so don't worry about it. But right now it'd be really good to have your support on the channel. If you click on the PayPal, Patreon, or you can use Super Chat if you want to do it here as well, or you can go for the channel memberships, which is like Drip Feed, or buy a t-shirt or something. Whatever you want to do, it's entirely up to you. Or just at least subscribe. Subscribe is very important. But if you can support channel financially, be really good as well, because of course that's what keeps the channel running and allows me to be able to say whatever the hell I want to say while I'm sitting here. John Kenny, hi Bob, stay safe and stay positive. That's good words. I hope you enjoy your well-deserved break and return to us relaxed and renewed, and keep up the good work. Thanks, John. I will do my very best. I'm going to sit in a corner and just go quiet for a long time. Not actually say anything. Eric Washer says, don't forget to click that like button. Oh yeah, likes. Hit the like button, please. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Very important as well. That just tells YouTube what's going on. I was watching a bit of American YouTube recently, and they say tube a lot. It's YouTube. You go over to tube. Rob Doyle says, afternoon Bob, love the channel. Thanks Rob, you're cool. Hit that like button for Bob. Thanks TS. Andy McAfee says, up SS fish and chips in effect. I am in and out listening. He's off making fish and chips. Andy McAfee is again this week. I can't call it the SS. I was going to shorten it down to the SS the other day, and I went, wait, no, that's not a Nazi thing. So I couldn't call it the SS the other day, but it was good crack though to mess around with that. Afternoon Bob, love the channel, says Rob Doyle again. Sorry, I missed that one. John Caffrey, question marks, lots of question marks. Hi Bob. Why is lots of question marks, John? Thanks for reviewing on the Laon. Yeah, Laon's a good car. Any more afterthoughts on it? Would you recommend it as a company car? John from Armagh. I would. I think it's a lovely car. Hatchbacks are good value. So you got to remember that at the moment. The market has shifted towards what little market there is people are buying small SUVs. You know, they're buying the Seats, the Skodas, but they're buying the SUV version of the Kamacs and all that sort of stuff. So when it comes to the hatchback market, where the good value is, people aren't buying that, so you get better value again. So a Seat Leon comes with quite a bit of kit in it compared to its kind of SUV version. So I like it. They're nicer to drive. They're more practical most of the time. I'd also recommend having a look at some estate cars. There's lots of estates on the market people don't even bother looking at. They have to be ordered sometimes as well. So you'll have to look around for them. But definitely I would look at a Seat Leon over a Volkswagen Golf. I think it's the king of that hatchback market. It's a Seat Leon. It's a lovely, lovely car to drive. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the FR. Just get an ordinary one. I don't know what your spec is. Maybe the spec is same as you. The names of the specs are different. But if you were to get just a standard diesel or a petrol version of it, it'd be fine. Wizardton is here. Hi Bob. Would it be wise to buy a new diesel car at the moment, or would it be a better choice to purchase a petrol hybrid? If I needed a diesel, I'd buy a diesel. Buy what you need. Electric cars are rubbish at doing very long journeys and having to be recharged at the end of those very long journeys. Most of them can do it. Most of them can do the long journey, but it's a massive mind shift and physical shift to plug these things in the whole time. EV owners will tell you it's no problem, you're getting used to it, but I don't want to get used to anything. I just want a car to work. If you're doing long journeys currently at the moment, diesel is the best option. You're able to do 1,000 kilometers on a tank of fuel. You can go pretty much anywhere in the country. You will always be able to find fuel very quickly. You will always be able to refuel near a shop, actually looking into the shop, you know, whereas the electric charge points often are way down the back end of nowhere, not even a light around them. You know, it's just this crazy situation where we're nearly there with electric, and all the electric people are shouting and telling you this is what it should be, when in actual fact you really need to take the foot off the gas or off the electricity for a minute and have a look at what's really going on, which is a shift in societal needs, the way we're moving about the country, the way we're changing. We're in a great time of change right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Change is good. It happens every 100 years or so. Last time we did it was the Industrial Revolution. And then just behind that was World War One. So 1900, then 1914 came World War One, and 1939-ish World War Two kind of kicked off. You know, so in that period, just there at the beginning of 1900, we invented the car. Essentially, that's where the mechanically driven car appeared, mostly electric. You can see a documentary on my channel about that. Mostly electric around 1900. Then 1914, it all fell apart for electric car because World War One started, and they just had no interest. They wanted tanks. They wanted something fuel that they could use in France and in Germany, and that fuel was combustion, petrol, diesel, and that was just much easier to deal with than electric and having to recharge and transport batteries and stuff. And so batteries fell apart. They're coming back now, but we'll see if it falls apart again. You never know. Colin Foley. Hi Bob. The bonnet lock on my 2011 Ford Focus is knackered. It is the lock type where you use the key to open the one. I know the one. Have you or anyone else here successfully fixed such an issue? No. The problem is you have to change the bloody lock on the front. So the Ford lock, well, okay, so normal bonnet locks, you pull a handle inside. Some of them are 2 clicks, some of them are just 1 click. What happens is the bonnet pops and it hangs on a sort of a catch inside, and you put your finger under the bonnet, then you push the catch and the bonnet lid opens. It's a safety catch. It's never really failed. For some strange reason, Ford decided to move the whole locking mechanism to under the Ford badge. So you move the Ford badge to one side, you put your key into the lock, you turn it, and that opens the bonnet. No reasons at all for doing that, but Ford did that anyway. Just for the hell of it, they decided that was the best way they were going to do it. The problem is, when the barrel of the lock or anything happens to the front of the car, you can't open the bonnet. Or if anything really happens to the front of the car and the bonnet's open, you can't close the bonnet. That's the problem every single time with the Ford. And when it goes wrong, you have to change the bonnet and the lock, or you change the bonnet or just the lock and not the bonnet. And that means you end up with 2 keys, one to open the bonnet, one to start the car. But essentially, it's kind of screwed. If it's broken and it's not locking or it's not unlocking, you just have to drill the bonnet just to lock out completely and put it in again. There's plenty of motor facturers will have experience in that. There's motor facturers I know when it started first, motor facturers used to stock the lock in the back room, because I did it myself, because it's quite common for them to go. The other problem is, if someone's going to break into your Ford car, they can actually open the bonnet and disable the alarm as well. You can't do that with a normal car until you break into the car, you know. TS has got a 2018 3 Series Touring Sport in gunmetal grey 4 weeks ago, and the automatic gearbox a revelation to me, as I never had an auto before. Fabulous, isn't it? The 2018 3 Series, actually all the BMW automatic gearboxes are very smooth. They don't get enough credit. Volkswagen Group take the DSG and they kind of that's the best gearbox in the world, but actually BMW gearboxes are gorgeous. Never buy a manual BMW. Not any of them. Right, don't. Unless you're going to drive it on a track, then yes, manual. But other than that, you just want a peaceful, happy life when you're driving your BMW. Just buy an automatic, because often their gearboxes have this enormous gate in them where you have to just go from gear to gear. It's terrible yuck. Sorry, just checking all my messages now. Make sure I'm keeping up with everybody, because last week I got in trouble because people were emailing me. And I wasn't getting what any of the emails, reading any of them out. There's new patron has just joined us there. I can't read your name though. What is it? My God, they make the text so small. Ian Cross, thank you very much. Ian Cross has joined me on Patreon and become a new patron of the group. I will be putting up some behind the scenes stuff. There is a new video coming out tomorrow or Tuesday on the Tesla Model 3, an in-depth look at the Tesla Model 3, the new one. A performance one I had a couple of weeks ago. I'm making another couple of videos as well to put out over next week. They will all go on Patreon first. So they go Patreon first, they go channel memberships first. That's where the two of them go out, and they go out at least 24 hours before they go live on the channel. So bear that in mind. You will get behind the scenes stuff if you subscribe on one of the platforms. List of links down below. I can't do that for PayPal people, but if you want to do PayPal, it's fine by me. I love PayPal because PayPal give me nearly 100% of what you send, so that's the great way. YouTube don't give you, I think they only give you 70%, 70%, 30%. I can't remember. It's the least anyway. Patreon is next. They take a small cut. PayPal take next to nothing of a cut, and that's the best way to support channel. Those three, but PayPal is once in a while. Eric Rochford, no, he's answering Andy McAfee. Pear Drops, who's Pear Drops? Never heard your name before. It's funny how I remember everybody's name I've ever read out on the Sunday service. If I read it out a second time, I'll always remember I've read it before. Weird that, and I'm crap at remembering people's names normally. Anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm rubbish at remembering people's names. I can introduce people and then I don't even remember them the next time. Anyway, Pear Drops. Bob, by the time you retire, the world will either have burned to a crisp. It'd be okay, I'd have a good tan from that. Or the sea levels have flooded in the Med. That's okay as well, because I'm in the Midlands, and if I was stuck here, it'd be warm here by then. Or an ice age. All bets are off for the future. It's true. You've got a point. I like your optimism, though. You see, I'm nearly 50, right? So I'm pretty close. Now, at this stage, I have 15 years to 17 years left of good working in me, according to what, retirement age should be. Now, I have no intention of retiring. So my ideal world would be to move to a country where I can continue doing what I do with videos and YouTube and whatever else I want to do, but not be in such a damp environment as Ireland. I've seen old people, old people in Ireland who can barely walk. And are missing vitamin D for like 9 months of the year. So I don't want to be one of them. But it's okay. I will get there. We'll see what happens. I think climate is changing, but I actually think climate has been changing all along, that we've accelerated it somewhat. It's just changing a bit faster. But I think in essence, we have been changing the environment for years and years and years. We've been doing it. We've been cutting down forests and trees and all that stuff. That's all been happening all along, long before we got cars on the road. There's just too many cars. Footy Ferrari says RTE and various outlets reporting that Phil Hogan apologised but won't be resigning. Disgraceful stuff. What did he say? Fulsomely apologised was his words, actually. Yes, he said a fulsome apology or something like that. It's one of the particular word. Sorry, I'm looking up. There he is. Fulsomely, yes. Gavin Riley, who is worth a follow on Twitter if you're following any journalists. He's pretty good. Gavin Riley quoted that he's fulsomely apologised. Now, fulsomely wouldn't be a word you would use in that. As grammar goes, that doesn't make a lot of sense to say fulsomely, because fulsomely is like something you do to not apologise nearly. It's a weird sort of a thing. You need to look up the dictionary, strict dictionary rule of using the word fulsomely. You would not use it for an apology unless you were trying to be a bit nasty about it. A good tweet that came out this morning as well was Father Jack was put into it. Remember when he goes, "I'm very, very sorry" in Father Ted. If you're not a Father Ted fan, it'll make no sense to you, and I've just become a meme. If you are a Father Ted fan, you know what I'm talking about. But yes, Phil Hogan, of course, has already gone back to Brussels, lads. He's already left the country. He doesn't worry about any of this travel bans or staying at home or putting a mask and none of that. Don't worry about any of that. It's Phil Hogan. He's insulated from these things. He doesn't get COVID-19 or commute it to anybody else either. Andy McAfee says Octavia VRS diesel for the commute. Dead right, which he has one. Campervan Creations. Campervan insurance is really quite cheap as they tend not to be used as daily drivers. Caravan and campervan clubs are hefty discounts for members. Google them. Jamie's great to be back. Good man, Jamie. Jamie's there at Campervan Creations, who's growing his channel and building campervans. Yeah, they're definitely sticking with communities, whatever community you're in. If you own a Honda or you own a Hyundai, chances are there is a owners club out there, and if there isn't one, start one, because they will save your life. Because in those owners clubs will be people who not only love the thing you love, but also have worked on the thing you work on, or have gone through an experience with their vehicle or their whatever it is that you're joining. They'll have gone through that experience. So it's very important that you join these kind of clubs and support them, because the things that are being driven out of society currently are trade unions and clubs in general, getting together as a group of people and celebrating something. Clubs are often seen as kind of furtive places these days, whereas and they move online, so it's kind of like a forum or, you know, a boards group or whatever it is that gets together and do their things. But a club is a very important thing to support, because the more support you get, the more you realise that you're not alone in what you're doing and how you do it. You don't feel so furtive about the whole thing. And the same applies to campervans. I know people who go on holidays every year in you know, a set of 4 campervans, and they all get together and they go on their holidays, and they take it as a group like that. And they're complete strangers for the rest of the year, but they all holiday together because they mind each other's campervans. So it's kind of weird. And all the lads get out the tools and start, you know, fixing things like we do, you know, that kind of that man thing where you feel like because you're a man you should know how to expertly use a hammer and a drill and that sort of stuff, you know, like you're born with that knowledge, whereas I tend to just drill a hole in the wall and then fill it back in with some filler after when I'm hit of balls of it and do it again. Steve O.C. says those 80 lads keep their yachts in Monaco. Of course, that's why he was here and only why Monaco is on the green list. Yeah, but you can't fly to Monaco unless you can't even fly with a private jet. There is no strip in Monaco. Everybody going to Monaco lands in Nice, which is why when the Monaco Grand Prix is on, they all go by car. You know, they don't want to land in Nice. It's quite a drive. It's 45 minutes along the motorways there from Nice to Monaco. I've driven it a few times. Monaco is a crap hole. Visited it for the laugh and go up to Stelvio Pass outside of it. So they're all kind of, not Stelvio Pass, what's it called? Col de Torini outside of Monaco. Go up there, they're a good laugh for driving and stuff, but Monaco itself is just a meat market and is all about the Formula 1. But it's kind of cool to go down to casino, and you do it in a day, you know, you just drive around the casino thing, buy a very expensive cup of coffee and a bottle of water and get the hell out of there. Dave Hall, afternoon Bob from North London. Good man Dave, good to have you. Alan Burke, Dublin Airport needs underground train line to the city centre stations. Absolutely. If you've ever, particularly business people, particularly people like the travel that I do, where I'm going to something, to an event or whatever, not a holiday, will fly into and we've all done this, right? Anyone, you all know. Tell me if you're comment now if you know that you're this kind of person. So you fly into a place, and the first thing you want to know is how do you get from the airport to the city centre or to your hotel. And when you land into Frankfurt, Munich, Paris, Charles de Gaulle, Paris, Barcelona, and these places, the first thing you do, head for the train, right? London is very expensive on a train. I think it's really expensive, well overpriced for the express one. But you can get the tube, which is a bit cheaper as well. You land into Ireland, what's the first thing you do? Taxi. Because there's no trains. There's a slow bus, which I had to take one day, which takes you into the city centre. It's the worst joke. It's clean, but it's slow. And after that, you're down to car rental or something. You know, there's no reason why we couldn't have in the first place with the Laois, which stops at the Red Cow, the Red Cow, which is a massive turnabout there, which should have a multi-storey car park with 600 car park spaces in it. But why couldn't we have a spur line that goes off up and follows the M50 right up to the front door of the airport? It just doesn't make any sense. We were after adding another lane to the M50, but we couldn't add a train line? Don't know. Even an L, like an elevated one. Nigel Weir, has anyone got the new Zoe with the changes to door handles, badges and brake sensors? Has anyone got the new Zoe with the changes to door handles? What's that mean, Nigel Weir? Brake sensors. This is the new Zoe, the one I was after testing recently. It's one of my favourite electric cars. That one, which I think is quite nice. Good little car. It's the one I'd buy if I was buying a new electric car. I'd buy that little Zoe. It's just a nice little thing. Gets around, has the mileage. You don't need to buy the fast charger because it charges 22 kilowatts. And anyway, it'll charge up quick enough at home. And you don't really need. It's got the range to not worry about fast charging. Robert Doyle says, "Hi gang, forgot Sunday service." How can you forget? If you subscribe and click the bell icon, it gives you notification on your phone. That's why you click the bell icon. Michael T, how about a video of your own Seat, Bob? Would love the video on the older Seat. Everyone, every single year since I started this channel, someone is asking about my own Seat. I suppose I could. I never really videoed the car because it's really easy for me, of course, and you, to sit back and criticize your own car, or even an old car. A 15-year-old car, you sit and go, well, this doesn't work and that doesn't work. It's so easy to do, so it's so hard to find out why. I suppose what I'd have to do is tell a story of, say, at Laois, and then fill in where my car sits into that and why I bought it in the first place. And I met funny enough, since becoming a motor enthusiast, I actually met the actual designer of the car and got to shake his hand and tell him all about my car and why I think he made a mistake. So funny, sitting there telling him, I don't know why you made the wheel arch so big. And he's the guy who created the design in the first place. Andy McAfee says, now we're cooking with collar, cod in the oven, chips in the active fry, Sunday service on in the office and kitchen, and you're in pikey surround sound here now. I like that. That's the way to have me at all times. Someone else sent me a picture today of me on a big widescreen TV thing. A massive yoke over fireplace, like a 60-inch TV. That's terrifying. I can't imagine seeing my face that size. That'd be absolutely terrifying. I have to shout out to Joyce and Mary, who I met the other day and wanted to get a big selfie with me, but wanted to do it in a socially distant way. So they'd stand way back, and I said I'd give them a shout out on the Sunday service as well. Thank you very much, Joyce and Mary. You're very nice people. I met them out running. I was very sweaty and roasted and burning up, but I was there, which is pretty good. Don't forget to subscribe and support the channel if you possibly can. It'd be brilliant if you could. Super chats, PayPals, all them kind of things are underneath on the list of links down below. It'd be great to have you aboard. Nigel Weir says, any idea when Seat ID3 versus coming out? Can't remember the name now. Is the ID, what's that called? That's called the Seat Elborn. Isn't that what that was called? That was supposed to be out this year as well. We were actually, before lockdown, we were actually teed up to go down and drive one back at some point, but that never happened. It's all kind of falling apart. Communication, see, everything's all over the place. So a lot of people are working part-time from home and sometimes in the office. So you got people who are coming and going out of it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that one next. Where that's going ahead, pardon me. Bit of repeating there. We had some pasta for lunch. I'm not sure when the ID3, when the Seat Elborn will be out, or even ID3, when I'm going to see that here and drive it here. I know Johnny Smith has done a drive it already, but even he told me that he went over there, on the QT to drive the car. He had 2 hours with it, and that was it. It was like in and out in a flash. He didn't even get a good go of it. So it's hard to say what's going to happen to ID3 and whether we're really going to see it hit the ground running, or we're going to see a dribble effect. Maybe the people who've already pre-ordered a car get their cars, and then everything else kind of falls off a cliff after that. So it's really hard to see where that's going to go. Reverse. Also, for the last couple of years, I've been saying on this Sunday service that EV charge points are not safe at night time. They're not safe places to be. They're not safe to be hanging around and messing about with. They're okay during the day. A lot of these places are alright, but at night time, when you're on your own and you're pulling up and you're out of electricity, and you pull up to somewhere, even up to town here, where we have one outside the ESB offices near the Garda station, but it's quite tucked in at the back, and there's little lanes and stuff with graffiti in it beside it and all. They're not safe places, lads. Most of these things aren't even lit at night time. and you're tethered to it. So you can't just drive off if something happens. Some guy walks up and starts jumping up and down in your bonnet. You still have to unplug your car and turn it all off. It's not safe. Honest to God, be very careful with these things. Be careful at night time. The last thing you want to see is someone's car getting stolen or something really bad happening to people out there, stuck off out on a motorway, service station somewhere. I've stopped in the one in Galway, one just outside Galway. There's a fast charge. And I stopped there on the way back in a Hyundai Kona one night from Galway, and realised that the charge point is at the very end of the, I suppose, kind of parking field, nearly, not even tarmac area. It was off down the very back of this place. There was quite a walk to the shop itself to get help if something happened to you. It was really like worrying stuff to think about, and it's going to continue on that way as well. Joyce O'Grady has become an apprentice mechanic. Well done, you are an apprentice mechanic now. We're going to take your information and keep it on file. Thank you very much. You can do the same if you want to, right here on Super Chat or on memberships or on Patreon or on PayPal. Anyone you want to support this channel is always good. Ocean Froggy, sorry Bob, have to disagree. Oh, well, you see, now this is where it comes. This is where the EV people come running out and I'm going, hang on now, your view is wrong because my view is right. That's what happens next, is someone's really handy. It's no brainer. It's really easy to do. I haven't even read the rest of it. I know that those words are already in this, because this is the way EV conversation happens. You go, the transition for the vast majority of people is quite difficult and will take a long time, and people need to be a little bit more patient with it, and it can't all happen in 6 months. And the EV people come back at you and they throw electric fireballs at you and go, no, it's all very straightforward. All you got to do is plug it in and do this and do that and click this and do that and learn about this app and have that app and 6 apps on your phone. And yeah, I'll read it out to you. See how right I am. Sorry, Bob, I have to disagree. Given the transition painlessly and seamlessly from diesel SUV to EV 18 months ago, it's been plain sailing. £8 a week for fuel too. Nippy, relaxing, no brainer, no problems. So predictable. Yes, that's true for some people. The vast majority of car owners in this Ireland is over 50. Some of those car owners have been diesel drivers or petrol drivers or have been that kind of driver for many, many years. They own a car that's probably worth less than 10 grand, and they're expected to pay €40,000 to move that car up and dispose of their old petrol and diesel reliable way. They get a €600 to €1,200 charger into their house. They don't know how much it costs. They don't know how to plug it in. They don't know nothing. And the dealer's not interested in telling them any of this. They just want to sell cars. And that's if you can get on the waiting list for a car. That's if you can manage to get yourself a car in the first place, because of course it's harder to get them now. So the point is valid that for some people it's quite easy to flip over and they just kind of go, yeah, that's no problem, just plug it in there and it's all good and I feel good in the hood about that one. But after that, there's an awful lot of people out there who enjoy driving a diesel, enjoy driving a petrol. They want to continue doing it. They don't really want an electric car. And even if they were forced an electric car, they'd have to learn everything from scratch. So it seems really straightforward. It seemed like my car, my 15-year-old Seat Leon, costs about £50 a year in servicing. We spend about €20 a month, I think, or so in petrol. That's it. The tax, which is out of my control, there's nothing I can do about tax. I can't make tax any cheaper because I don't run the tax system. The tax is the most expensive part. I think it's close to £350 a year, something like that, £375, something like that, per year to tax the car. Other than that, there is no expense. Every couple of years we get a set of tyres on it. That's expensive, but EV have to do that as well. Every couple of years we change the brake pads. Again, EVs have to do that as well. So if you drive a second-hand car, as I do, sitting outside your door and it's costing you next to nothing, why in your right mind would you think that moving to £8 a week for fuel in your electric car is any better than £20 a month for mine? I spend about £5 a week in petrol. That's it. Because it only goes up and down the town. It does short runs when it's lashing rain and grey and miserable out there. It's gone to the shops now. They don't cost much to run. It's only commuters out there who will save any money on electric cars. Or if you drive into congestion areas, of course, obviously, because there's a bias towards low CO2 cars in congestion areas. You can save a lot of money. Nigel Weir, diesel bad news. Poison the environment. Will be good second-hand buy. New madness. Next 5 years, diesel will be worth little as trade-in. Next 5 years, nothing's going to be worth much as trade-in because everything is changing so fast. Every time you open your eyes, we're going to be going longer in electric cars, bigger range, smaller batteries, bigger batteries, small, this, that, you can charge them faster, charge them slower. Everything changes every day. That's the problem right now, is we know too much. Instead of buying a car for 5 years, 10 years, now we're supposed to buy a car for 3 years. That's what's happening. Literally, before your very eyes, we used to buy a car every 4 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Now we've reduced that down to like 3 years. We'll push that down to 2 years now. And next we'll go to leasing now every 6 months. That'll be the next thing. So it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. Pretty soon, you just lease a car and let it go and see what happens. Andy says, search YouTube on how to open a Ford bonnet lock when broken. Some good guides on there. There you go. There's advice for you straight away. Go and check that out. I just been messaged on Facebook. Thanks. Thank you very much for messaging me on Facebook live. Just popped up on my screen, which is good crack. You cannot, yes you can. Definitely YouTube is always the resource for pretty much everything for repairs. Somebody somewhere has done it. I rewired a yoke here one day from an Australian kid. I'd say he couldn't be more than 14 or 15. And he was showing me how to rewire the exact thing that I needed to rewire, a piece of camera kit. And he was very good at it. I learned everything I needed to know right there. Nigel Weir, don't buy a BMW, better expensive old tech. BMW are coming back. And BMW went through a very big struggly point because they are a lone company. So they're not part of a massive group like Volkswagen where you can make huge mistakes and kind of get away with it. You know, they can kind of disappear the car off the face of the earth and you can have really broad range. BMW have to kind of stick in that point of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And that's kind of where they stick. And then they can do X version of all of those cars, which is this off-road version. They don't always get it right. But like I was on the launch of the X3 there last year, was it? And there was a diesel engine in that car. And it was the finest, most refined diesel engine I'd ever driven. Such a beautiful rev range, incredibly low CO2. The car had good torque. It was able to tow. It did a whole lot. But of course, it's coming out at a time where people are going, don't need more diesels. And of course, we'll never even see it. But yet, it's such a fantastic machine to drive. And we'll never really see it on the road. So tech is shifting so quickly that we're being left, we're kind of catching up. Every day we open Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, and there's something new at us. Already we're there. And you see these kind of tech journalists who are reviewing cameras and reviewing phones, and they hold up their little thumbnail as a picture of like 7 or 8 phones in a fan and go, which phone is best for you? It's like, huh? I have one phone. There's a phone. That's it. It's a business tool. I have it here in front of me. Which I changed over recently to an iPhone 10. I bought it secondhand because I like the camera and it's a bloody good phone. Really like that phone actually. I came from 7 by the way, so I kind of jumped over. I waited till it all went on a price and jumped over all the 8, 9, 10. John Burr, P-I-R. Bob, has COVID-19 slowed down the lead time in order delivery German cars? Yes. Everybody's on backlog. So every car plant on earth closed for a short period of time at least. And so the backlog of orders will be caught up on eventually. But the problem is they can't produce as many as they used to. Because everybody's kind of cocooned. So if you see some of the videos that are coming out of some of the car companies where they're walking around they've got plastic things around them everywhere so they can't get out from under. They've got visors on them. I'd say it's very hot and sweaty because car plants are quite warm anyway. I've been in a good few car plants, but some of them are actually really quite uncomfortably warm. So it must be really warm now and you have to wear a mask as well, but sweat pumping out of you. But they'll come back up to speed as long as we don't have a second lockdown. We should be back up to speed by probably December this year. A lot of the hold up on the VW ID3 as well is also because of COVID lockdown. Not necessarily because the car wasn't ready, just because they couldn't produce enough of them. And getting a hold of batteries is a problem. Getting a hold of the motors, the precious metals that are in the motors is a problem because a lot of that comes out of China. Elon Musk has just signed an agreement with the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, to mine more cobalt out of the mines there. And you can look these up for yourself. This is not. I'm not trying to be nasty about EVs, but these are normal things. And in the Congo, they do mine by hand. This is all changing. Of course, they're going to use less and less cobalt in these engines or in these batteries over time. But right now, the cars you're driving right now wouldn't be as environmentally friendly as they will be in 3 years' time. So that's normal as well. Nigel Weir, have you come across the model of Zoe? Well, if you look at my channel, I just reviewed a Zoe recently, which is the latest version of the Zoe, so it's probably it. Andy McPhee says, I'd be more interested in hearing about the Skoda version of the ID3, which I've driven. Oh my god, the Enyaq it's called, or the Enya as we will be calling it in Ireland. Very good, nice to drive, really nice to drive, well sorted chassis, but it is of course the MQP chassis that Volkswagen has anyway, but really well sorted, seemed very nice to me. Not finished when I drove it, of course, it was in camouflage here in Ireland in Douro. But VAG seems to be keeping Skoda quiet behind, pushing Seat forward, still trying to keep the sales balance on the VW brand. Well, that's what makes money. You know, they can produce Seats a little bit cheaper than they produce something else. Skoda, to me, has gone quite quiet, but so has Volkswagen and Seat and Audi. They've all gone kind of quiet. There's less and less press releases coming out, less and less news coming out the whole time. The same applies to pretty much all the car companies. Even Tesla, who would have been fairly tame on news in the first place, are still like silent on a lot of stuff. VU Bear says, afternoon Bob, come on VU Bear, good to have you. Alan Acaster says the easiest way for the name is, oh right, here's a lesson on how to pronounce the name. Alan Acaster. Alright, Acaster. Isn't there an Acaster comedic guy? Something Acaster on TV in UK. Anyway, I worked for Rover Group, and Land Rover under them would tell you stories about what they did. Rover Group, yeah, I heard a lot of. I met a lovely guy called Jeremy Peterson. Was it Peterson? Yeah, I think it was Jeremy Peterson. A few years back, he worked in the original Rover plant. Was it in Manchester somewhere? Worked there, and he was telling me, he was in the trade union end of it and stuff, and he was telling me the stuff they used to get up to, which is, they drove themselves out of business essentially, but you know, the stuff they used to get up to over the years is incredible. Tell us stories, Alan. Go for it. Put it in the comments. Michal D says, fulsome and profound apology. Is it profound? Something wrong with that, man. Yeah, it really is. Has he said anything else? No, he's just gone off there. He's gonna sit back now and smile to himself and worry about his pension. Is that what he's gonna do next? Which is from our what is he, trade commissioner or something in the EU, something like that. Anyway, he's a lunatic as far as I can see. I will say no more because I'll be liable for what I'm going to say next, because it's so thick. It's time for a rant. Nigel Weir, I live at the top of a hill but still have an EV. Great regen going down. Yeah, I remember we drove. We went to, where did we go? Somewhere in Monaco, I think. Somewhere in Nice, anyway. And we drove to the top of this hill in a, whoops, I've forgotten what the car is, but it was a hybrid, and we drove up the hill using the kind of hybrid system, and we got to the top, the hybrid battery was empty, and then we turned around and we came back down the hill just by kind of coasting our way down to the bottom of it, and when we got to the end, the battery was full again. It was great, like it was really good. We didn't use any petrol to go there at all, and it was a hybrid. It was really good. But yeah, you can do that with an EV. It recharges itself, which is always quite nice. We have people we need to slap there. I see Andy McPhee and Eric Rochford are on point. The ban hammer's out, and we have been banning people in the background. It's great news for me because I don't have to worry about the weirdness that comes in from the freaks out there, the freaks and the people. Alan Acaster says BMW auto gearbox in the main is the ZF8 and 9 HE units as used by them. Jaguar, Land Rover, Aston Martin, Fiat, Chrysler. Also, that ZF engine or gearbox ended up in some Toyotas. Do you know that? I've driven it in a Toyota. It's not good. But they've gone CVT now, so that's the end of that. But they were using it for a bit. Nigel Weir, camper vans very expensive, making one much cheaper, but island hopping from Ireland is expensive. Better to hire abroad and quicker. Only if you can get your deposit back. Often these hire companies will take a horrendous deposit for you to hire a camper van, and then will do anything they can to not give it back to you. So you got to get a little bit wise with that part as well. But yes, it is very expensive to take a camper van onto a ferry and bring it over to France or something. Now, if I was having a camper van, I'd only really have it here for Ireland. I really would. We'd probably go every weekend if I had one. It's finding one is the problem. This is not a good time to buy a camper van, by the way. The market is at its peak in second-hand camper vans. Basically, Andy McPhee says, basically, you're going to retire to Spain then. Channels change to El Flavanino. El Flavanino sounds, actually has a lovely ring to it, that, in fairness. Right down there in the lovely tip of Spain. As close as I can get to Africa, like Gibraltar. No, it's just I can get to the equator, basically where I want to be. In a nice, but all I'm looking for is like a dry climate so I don't get arthritis. So I can go running regularly when I'm 70. Or at least get drunk early in the day for very little money. Like a nice glass of wine about 10:30 in the morning is okay. Especially during lockdown. Johnny Dub, no notification again. Anyone else not getting them? It's just me. If you're not getting notifications on your phone, you may have turned off notifications for YouTube app in your phone, because I know I wasn't getting them for a while, and there was times where YouTube just suddenly took your subscribers away from you, like you weren't subscribed to the channel you were last time, or they turned off your bell notifications. But just check in an iPhone, if you go into settings, let me give you a lesson here. Go into settings and then go into notifications and then scroll down till you see at the very bottom of the list notifications for YouTube, and then make sure they're all turned on like that, and then you will get the notification on your screen when the channels you're subscribed to go live, or they change something, or they do something, so you can turn on and off the banners and stuff. That's on an iPhone. It'll be pretty similar on an Android. It's a bit harder to get into, but Android hide a lot of stuff because they're Google backed. But I see them doing it right there on the screen as well. It's very good. Nigel Weir landed in Munich from Ireland last year. Getting to Passau by train was not easy. Cancelled trains. I haven't been. Last year, when was the last I was in Germany? I remember last I was in Germany. I know once upon a time I did this very long way around, Barcelona to Munich, Barcelona to Madrid, Madrid to Paris, Paris to Frankfurt or Munich, and almost all of that by train. It just happened to be faster than planes. Weirdly, I could do it overnight. I could leave on the train from Madrid to go to Paris and do the overnight train, so I could have a snooze while I was on the way. It was lovely. I woke up to change trains at the kind of around the border. Can't remember where the hell it was, but I got off to get on another train. It was a lovely journey. Highly recommended. Quite cheap too. Sean Murray, hi Bob. Have never driven an automatic car. Thinking of buying one. Is it easy to get used to the change? It's the best move I ever made. I'm fierce lazy driver. So vast majority of the driving I do in Ireland is on a motorway when I'm going somewhere. Right now, sometimes we go the other way. Sometimes we go towards the west where it's small little back roads, and if you're stuck in traffic anywhere, a manual is a pain in the ass. Really is. And automatic gearboxes become so good and so easy to use. Just go and just get on with it. Some of them are a little bit more finicky than others, but it's the easiest thing ever to get used to. It's actually harder to go back to a manual these days. It's harder and harder. Manual cars will disappear over time. I don't foresee a good future to manuals. I think everything will go automatic because car companies will be in total control of the CO2 emissions when it's an automatic. You don't control it so heavily when you're a manual, because it's very much up to the driver to change gears. Eric Watcher says YouTube notifications temperamental at best. Stick to Sunday service on your phone notifications just to be on the safe side. That's a good thing. Go into your calendar, add a Sunday service 2 p.m. on a Sunday, and then you get a reminder from your phone. Nothing to do with YouTube at all. Won't be here next week, but I will be here the week after. And then we're into the autumn season of the Sunday service, so we'll be changing the background and changing the pictures and stuff that are over my head here, and maybe changing around the office again and messing around, just kind of altering it and getting a different camera, I think, to replace that one, a bigger one. I'm trying to put it in here. I'm testing with my Canon 60D, which I have downstairs, to use that as a webcam, so to make it a heavier duty, sort of a better field of vision and stuff. So that'll all come in as well in the autumn. Obviously from you guys support the channel, so it's coming from your end of stuff. Terry Atkins says, you're in my shed as I'm tinkering, turning junk into more useful junk. That's a very man thing to do, Terry. That's a really important thing to do every once in a while. I think every man, even if you're not a DIY person or you're not into it at all, I think every once in a while you actually need to get a piece of wood, a nail and a hammer, and just hammer a nail into it. You don't have to be nailing up to do anything, just hammer a nail into it. Or get an old piece of wood that has nails sticking out of it and take the nails out. There's something about that physicalness of being connected to the thing you're working on that's not electronic, that is purely analog, physical, feeling, the whole show, and it makes you feel that sort of more manly. I can say that because I know that 95% of my audience, no, it's actually 93% of my audience now, is men. It used to be 97% and the rest are women. Now there's a lot more women involved these days. They do send quiet emails. Women ask questions offline. Just thought I'd tell you that. They don't tend to ask questions in the comments here. They tend to wait till the Sunday service over, and then I'll get a little email or a comment somewhere, or a little DM from somewhere. And it's cool. It's lovely. It's lovely. It's fine. I've never made anyone feel less of a motoring head by asking odd questions. Nigel Weir says, from 1st of August, Renault making changes to Zoe already. Waiting for the new Zoe just after that date. So just heard from Vlog that doing away with passenger button and emergency brake sensor. I haven't heard any of that, but if you say so, it might be true. It'd be weird. Why would they bring out a brand new car this year and then change it again in August? There must be something wrong with it if that's the case. Eric Washer said, auto much easier to get used to than you think. Switched a few years back and never go back again. Modern boxes, very sophisticated and generally smooth. Yep, definitely. Anything Volkswagen. Although I do find they had a 6-speed, and I found it would go from 6th to 5th, just going uphill on a motorway. And I don't know why that is. It's like a software thing. It just seems to just constantly want to change gears into 5th. Like even the smallest tremble of the accelerator, and it's changed gears. TS says, Sean Morrow, it was seamless for me. Oh, he's answered Sean Morrow. I thought after 30 years of driving manuals, it'd be weird like learning to drive again, but it's easy and still drive a manual van. It really is. It really is just the go. And then you suddenly realise, why was I changing gears all this time? Why is my left thigh so thick versus my right thigh? Because you're changing gears the whole time. Ocean Froggy says, that's why home charging is safe, convenient, and the only way to go. Agree, FCPs are often located far from forecourts, but modern EVs only need home charging 98% of the time. See, I don't agree. Again, that's an EV person dismissing a problem that exists as if, well, you know, you should just charge at home, or you should just get an app, just get a thing. It's this dismissiveness that really irks people who just drive cars. You don't dismiss things. It's a concern for people. A lot of people are changing into EVs who will have a home charger but are concerned about having to charge in the street, or will at some point drive to Waterford or Wexford or wherever it is. And I've charged in Waterford. It's in a car. There's 2 charge points. Slower charge, the 22 kilowatt ones, are in a car park that I swear to God you would not enter at night time. You would definitely not go into these car parks at night time. They are not safe. They're on the main sort of road, but they're kind of tucked around the back of it. So again, we're at that same position of that EV people, or people who are good at it, people who get used to it or adapt to it very quickly, but just dismiss the worries of people, which gets people annoyed, and then they won't buy an EV because they don't want to do it, and then they don't want to ask a question. So you end up in this echo chamber of EV people going, well, you know, Toyota are just liars because they say about the self-charging hybrid, so they're dismiss them, and you know, and never get a chance to kind of just gradually get themselves educated by it. Nigel Weir says, Joy specialised in EV, that's the future. Thanks for the tip, Nigel. Oh, so you're all answering each other's questions. Put a little at so I can't see. I don't read it. Peter Ucar's here, good man. Raymond Grace, hi Bob, you're looking good on my 48-inch TV. That could have went badly wrong there when I was reading that out. That really could have went badly wrong. I don't care what else you're doing. If you're watching me on 48-inch TV, you better be not on your own. Roxanne O'Brien has tried their best to say something but was deleted. Good man, Eric. I'm not even going to read it. Now, you got your name read out as far as it goes. TS, my auto petrol seems to be good on fuel as gearboxes uses low RPM, plus mine has eco driving mode. Yeah, usually autos have become much more refined. So originally cars didn't even have a gearbox. They just had one gear. It just went faster. That's the way electric cars are actually now. They don't have a gearbox. Either the drivetrain just goes faster or slower or backwards. So they don't really have a reverse gear even. But originally when gearboxes came out, they were very complicated things, which is why there was only two gears. There was 3 gears on a Model T Ford. So there's really slow, like 5 miles an hour, or really fast, like 25 miles an hour. That was the 2 gears. So you can either go really, really slow or really, really fast, or backwards. That was the 3 gears in total in the car. That became 4 over time as we started moving stuff around. And the gearbox on a Model T is up at the steer, the tiller, as I would really call it, because it's like trying to steer a ship. And it wasn't until, it was into the 50s before we put gearboxes on the floor. The car was kind of laid out like you see today, where you have a gear stick, a steering wheel, indicators, and the kind of layout we see now was more into the 50s. Those cars were really efficient because the driver had to actually be involved in the process of driving, really involved, like properly involved. That's why you had oil pressure gauges and all sorts of weird stuff. But as we got better at it, we started to go automatic. We started to have cars that would change. We went backwards to go forwards. When we had 4 and 5 speed gearboxes in ordinary cars, we went 3 speed automatic, because automatics were not safe. They weren't good. They were crap at changing gears, and they had a sort of a trigger system inside the engine that would trigger at a certain RPM to change gears. Most of them would break. So if you broke the 3rd gear of an automatic gearbox, the car is banjaxed. It now will not choose a gear at all. It won't go into 1st or 2nd. Whereas a manual gearbox, if you break 5th, it will still go into 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. If you broke 3rd, you could still do 1st, 2nd, 4th and 5th. So you can still just skip the gear, because you're initially skipping the cog rather than anything else. But in an automatic gearbox, it wasn't the same. Very complicated back then. These days, they're much more software related. They're much more reliable. They do work. You very rarely hear of gearbox replacement these days, or having to get out and done with them. So only when if they go wrong, they go really wrong, in fairness to them, like Ford did with their power shift box in Australia. They ended up in litigation over there trying to defend themselves. Volkswagen had the same problem with DSG. They used to put in a dry sump in the DSG gearbox, which even a micro amount of dust got into it, and that's the end of it. It's gone. The gearbox is finished. So they changed over to wet gearboxes for a while. So all kinds of problems can happen, but generally speaking, automatic gearboxes are much more reliable than they ever were, but still not as reliable, and you're not as in control as you do with a manual gearbox. And the last point on a manual gearbox is, if you take your driving test in Ireland in an automatic, you are only licensed to drive automatics from there on out. If you take it in a manual, you're licensed to drive a manual and an automatic. Bear that in mind, learner drivers. You need to learn how to drive in a manual car. Nigel Ware says, EV owner for nearly 6 years, still too expensive, not enough charging points, far too many apps. Far too many apps is driving me nuts, because of course I test different EVs all the time, so I end up installing everybody's app. 99% of the car companies don't give us access to the app. So Tesla gave me a Tesla Model 3, but I couldn't use the app to do the other functions on the car, like opening car, closing the car, walking away, charging, turning off the charge, all the stuff you can do as an owner. So I couldn't test them anyway. But most of the car companies don't give me those apps either. I was in Decathlon Monday. I can't remember when I was in Decathlon. I was in Decathlon recently, right? And I was driving the PHEV 3 Series, and I decided to pull in for a charge because it's close to the car park and I needed a charge anyway. So I plug it in, and then I go, right, how do you start this charger? Because there's nothing on the front of the charger, doesn't tell you a goddamn thing about charging it. And then the security guard comes walking out of Decathlon, he comes over and goes, I'll start that for you. Book, and on it goes. And I go, oh, that's great, that's deadly. You just do that. Oh, it doesn't cost that, and it's brilliant. He goes, yeah, you just register with one of the companies. And I go, that's great. I went off inside, I bought a jacket, and I came back out and walked over to the car and realised that I'd have to get the security guard to turn the bloody thing off, because I can't unplug until he uses his fob on it. That, forget about it. That just, again, drive you nuts. Pulling up to a charge point, then you don't charge when you get there, you know. And I'm sure someone's going to go, well, you should just do your research before you go there. But I don't have to research a petrol station or a diesel petrol station, do I? Just pull up, put the pump in, drive off. Easy. Anyway, I also don't agree with individual parking spaces for electric cars. I think those chargers should just be everywhere, and we should have a universal card. It should be your debit card or a single app on your phone, like Revolut or something, opens them and just charges you. That's that. That's all you want. M. Jones says, it's better to have charging port at the front or the back of a car. I think it should always be at the back, because you could never be driving forwards into a parking space or your driveway. Correctamundo. You should never drive nose into a car park space anyway. And also, if it's on the front, like the Zoe, I always had this fear that if you rear-ended somebody in traffic, you know, that's the most common accident by far, is to rear-end somebody in low-speed traffic, and you damage the charge port. Will you be able to charge again, or, you know, are you stuck now? Will you have to get it all fixed and replaced and everything before it does it? So there is a good argument for putting we've always put fuel caps on the back left or right of the car, you know. So there's a good argument for putting it on the back left or right. I think the problem has always been that some of the cables aren't very long, particularly when you get to the fast chargers, and the faster the charge, usually the shorter the cable. So getting close to it, if you put the charger port on the left back of the car, and the only port available to you is on the right side of the car, it might not reach. That's been the argument for it. But I do think we could, at this stage, we could move the charger to the back side, one side of the car or the other side of the car. We'll figure it out after that, and then just put in the charger so they're all the same. Nigel, too many people leasing. That's what companies want. Well, leasing is a big problem in its own respect, particularly in the UK, but it's coming here to Ireland slowly but surely, because leasing companies will drive the car into the ground while it's there. They'll service it and they'll sell it off at the end. But if there isn't a purchaser there for the leasing at the end, they'll keep it on. So it's a bit strange that way. Johnny Dub says, I wouldn't fancy anyone trying to lash the trolley down between my car and theirs because they're reversed into the space. I always reverse into space. Is it just me? I always do. Every time, even when I go shopping, I reverse into space. Well, often. Sometimes when you park in the child-friendly spaces, I don't reverse it and just go straight into the front because those are huge, wide open yachts. But for parking, you never know when your welcome is going to wear out, and you can drive out of a space much safer and quicker than you can reverse out of a space. So there's that. May Sheen has been thrown out of this chat as well. Bye now. Dave Keating, for what? No, I know. Yeah, that's right. For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it golf? What? Sorry, I might be out of the loop on that one, but I don't know what that means. That sounds like a reference to Golfgate, which is still going on. I see RT News are reassuring everybody that there's Professor Philip Nolan said there's very little evidence internationally that schools are a major site for COVID-19 spread. Children are mostly contracting it at home. So children don't get it from other children, just get it from other adults. I don't get that. Weird how this COVID-19. And it's funny how everybody between no symptoms and dead is everything that COVID-19 could be for you. So there. Now, that's pretty much it. So you ask anybody what the symptoms of COVID-19, they tell you a persistent cough, a high temperature, and a loss of taste buds or something. And you go, well, I haven't had any of them things. Well, then you haven't got COVID-19, but you might not have any symptoms either. I'm fairly sure I might have had it. I think at this stage I've probably had it and never really noticed. I think. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Because you don't know whether you have symptoms or not. Alan Burke says, I have a 97 Corolla and after a few days not driven it might struggle to start. Got a new battery for a few months ago. The problem is it could be starter, an old fuse or something else. Could be any one of those things. Depends on what it sounds like when it's starting. So if it's a battery, it tends to sound like it's trying to start, but it sort of slows down. So it's like that's energy. It can't get enough energy, and that tends to be battery or electric connection. If it's a starter motor, you often get a weird noise, like a sudden bang or a sort of a whizzing sound or whatever out of it. That tends to be the starter motor part. If it's a fuse, nothing happens. Just no electricity goes to it. Or if it's a bad connection, you'll get a smell. You get a burning smell from it as well as another thing to look out for. So you can get a few of those kind of different versions of it. If your battery, so a fast way of testing is that the battery is to connect another battery or connect a set of jump leads, and if it starts first time, it's your battery. If anything else happens or if it goes on fire, then there's something wrong. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. Old tip, don't put a spanner across two parts of the battery, it'll blow yourself up. Nigel Weir says BMW also misleading CO2 diesel, VW Dieselgate, BMW and Merck under investigation. They all are, not just German ones either, by the way. The Japanese ones were too. But you see, a lot of the Japanese companies and Asian companies didn't really do a lot of diesels. They stayed away from it because it wasn't needed in their countries. Nobody else wanted diesel. Europe wanted diesel, and Europe actively, your EU people actively encouraged diesel. And still do. To this day, diesel is still actively encouraged in this country because business owners are allowed to claim the VAT back on their diesel spend. So you can't do that on petrol, you can't do that on electric. So what do you think is going to happen when a company decides they need a van, or they need an electric, or they need a car, or they want to have a company car of some sort? The very first thing they're going to do is get a diesel. They're not going, and the BIK thing is for company cars as well. That's only for electric. But the problem is, if you have 6 cars in your company and 4 of those are electric, you've just given 4 people the BIK relief in the company, but the other 4 people who can't have electric cars, they have to stick with diesel, so they get penalised for having a diesel. It's just the whole system needs to be adjusted. And well, I tell you right now that Eamon Ryan is not the man to do it. He definitely isn't the man to do it. He can't even make up his mind what he thinks about electric scooters. It's crazy. Electric scooters are brilliant, by the way. I have one downstairs. It's absolutely deadly for zooming around the town on. Eric Quattro's answering another question there. Not Another Diet is a, oh my god, that is a brilliant name for a channel. I can't open the channel right now, but you should have a channel called Not Another Diet and just rubbish any diet that has a name. Any of them, like Atkins or anything like that. Anyway, car backlog. In my experience, that means that new VW will take around 10 to 12 years to come from Wolfsburg then. That's probably about right. It'll be months. If you order a car now, I'd say you wouldn't be seeing it now till January, really, on any car company, unless it's already in stock or already in production. But if you want to order something a little bit more unusual, because remember, anything in German is first of all left-hand drive, so they start with those, and then the UK and Ireland are looked after next, but Brexit is coming, so the UK buy a lot of those cars, so they go into production on right-hand drives for a while, and then that production ends and they go into production with left-hand drives again, and that's the rest of the world. Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, England, and somewhere else, somewhere in Africa, I think, driving the same side of the road as us and want those cars. Imagine what would happen if you change the size of the road here. Cars get cheaper. Lads, we're doing this wrong. Nigel Weir continues, waiting for over 3 weeks for Zoe, especially supposed to be originally in Southampton, pushing it on my way. The Congo mining story is actually fake news. Sorry, I've been misled. I have not been misled. That is a lie. I have not been misled. I have checked this on multiple occasions. I have checked it on multiple different sources. I've even asked someone who works in the Congo. It is absolutely true that child labour is used in a lot of... It's normal. We used to do it here in this country. You used to do it in England as well. You sent children down the mines every single day to help their dads drag coal out of the ground. It didn't go away. Kids used to work for families, to support families. It has not gone away in a lot of third world countries, the Congo being one of them. The stuff you're listening to is fake news that tell you the rest of it. Everything's well in the world. Don't worry about it. You need to go look at things like Newsweek, The Economist, the Financial Times. They've all covered the story about the Congo and using child labour. They are all reputable sources, and I don't think I'll believe what Nigel Weir says to me right now in a comment on YouTube. Stuart McHugh, hi Bob, when do you think EVs will be the right price? They won't until batteries become a little bit cheaper. ID3 is 10k dearer than it should be. ID4 is a T-Rock, and ID Rooms, which I love the look of, ID6 is all-space Kodiak. ID6 will be 60k at this stage. It will, unfortunately, yeah. Now, I know electric cars are a lot more expensive, the components. So when a car company makes a petrol or a diesel car, they actually manufacture most of the components of the engine bit themselves. So they assemble it. They have engine assembly plants. They have plants that just specialize in making the engines for the cars. And then they ship all the engines to another plant for assembly of the vehicle itself. And a lot of these vehicles, the parts inside the car, come from Continental, they come from Valeo, they come from all these other little supplier companies that supply stuff. There's even companies here in Ireland that make stuff for Volkswagen, components for the dashboard, electronics behind the scenes. So all that stuff goes into a factory and it's all assembled. Now, electric cars have all that bit, you know, all the Continental stuff and all the stuff inside your cabin, but the batteries are usually made by, say, Siemens in Korea, or there's a few Chinese companies actually getting into the system as well and trying to make their stuff. So the problem is the kind of motors or the engines or the fuel that drives them or the components that drive them is outside the realm of the car company. It's not made by the car company. So they're relying on supply coming in from other dealers, and it's driving up the price all the time. Transporting batteries from China over to Germany to assemble into cars is expensive. So it's starting to balance out. I think they will start to go down in price a little bit, but at the moment the demand is very high. A lot of people are putting a lot of pressure on to get more and more EVs. They've met and exceeded their CO2 emissions, a lot of the car companies, so they'll choke the supply of electric cars very quickly. That's car companies doing that. That's what happens when you have emission targets. When you say 95 grams CO2 put out, when they reach it, they'll stop, because electric cars are counted as zero emissions. They shouldn't be, but they are. VU Bear, even normal cars are pushed back due to my new Grandland and due here at the start of September, but now it's due middle of November. Not a happy camper. It's just COVID, really. It's not you particularly. It's just the allotment of times to be able to manufacture. It's been messed about with by COVID. Martin Murphy. Hi Bob, Martin Murphy here again. Thanks Martin Murphy for introducing yourself. I recently bought a brand new Ford Mondeo Vignale in March. Not happy now because I had a BMW M Sport. It would be wise to trade for a 2019 Merc E-Class. That's the problem with Ford at the moment, and Mondeo as well, because Mondeo I think will come to an end next year when they run out of stock. They'll probably stop selling it again. It's already gone in the US, but it's been dragged on here a little bit longer. Now, that's going to put pressure on that segment of the market, which is a very low segment of market anyway, which is 3-box saloon stuff. People aren't necessarily buying it. Mondeo is quite an old car anyway. You know, it hasn't been refreshed in the last couple of years. Vignale is the very top of that range. Now, if I could convince you into something, a Mercedes E-Class would probably be a way to go to get you, because you're still current. You're still coming into a current car. Shame you dropped the BMW M Sport, although M Sport does add a little bit of a hard suspension. E-Class is one of my favourite cars. An E-Class estate, I'd be happy driving it forever. Just buy the diesel one and be done with it. Lovely yoke. There is a PHEV version of it as well, but the diesel one is fine. If you can, Martin, make your change soon. Those Mondeos will be worth a bit of money now because they're still on the market. A couple of years from now, when there's none of them left, no one's going to want it because it's going to be harder to get parts for. A lot of mileage goes on them. They get treated fairly hard. There won't be many of them in the market. Now is the time to get rid of Mondeos if you're in them, by the way. Nigel Weir, I can't read that. Anyway, Stuart McHugh, also Skoda will probably be always be bigger than the price would suggest. So the Enyaq will be looking way bigger than it would be than the ID3. Would you agree? I've seen both in the flesh. Skoda tend to make longer, bigger, wider cars than Volkswagen. I'm not sure why they do it. They seem to be able to manage to make them a little bit different, but they still feel the same on the road. So the Skoda will probably be slightly bigger size than the ID3. Volkswagen are in a weird position in that the ID3 is already being compared to the new Golf. You know what I mean? So you're already looking at ID3 and going, is that an electric Golf? So they have to be really careful that they don't make an electric Golf. You know what I mean? That the ID3 doesn't just take over from the sales of the Golf. The Golf is still one of their top selling cars. And will continue that way. I know T-Roc is troubling it now, but really the Golf will continue to be that top selling car for a long time. So you don't want to knock that off your own pedestal. If you take away your ability to sell the Golf and just replace it with ID3 and you can't get enough batteries, this is the problem, then you're already in trouble. Dave Hall says, suppose it's okay to buy or own a diesel only if it's Euro 6, i.e. 2016 model. Euro 6, Euro 7, yeah, you'd be fine. You'd be fine. They're very low CO2. If your mileage is very low, or if your mileage is very high, and you're traveling, if you're in the UK, for instance, or you're wherever you are in long distance stuff. I've driven in the UK. It's a long way to go to everywhere. But if you're in that kind of zone, or you're a sales rep and you're constantly on the road driving around the countryside, there isn't a single electric car going to be able to do that for you. Really, you're just going to have to compromise every single time at the moment, because they can't charge up fast enough. So if you are driving from here to, and I know sales reps that do this, I'm in contact with these guys all the time. If you're driving from Dublin to Waterford, and then Waterford to Kilkenny, and then Kilkenny over to Cork, and that has to all happen around the same day, electric cars just can't do it and won't be able to charge. They can do the range, but you can't charge them fast enough on your lunch break to go on. It costs, you have to charge them up at the fast chargers, and it's 38 cents or whatever it is per kilowatt. So it's a crazy sort of position to be in. But electric cars will get there. Just the ones that are available right now still can't do the long range stuff that you'll want to do. Euro 6, Euro 7, we're moving on to probably Euro 8 any day now. It'll come by, and it'll be, next to zero emissions coming out of these diesel cars as well. Ocean Froggy says, perhaps consider retirement to an OPEC country, warm, dry, zero crime. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. Maybe Dubai or something. Dave Hall, or newer, if not, will cost you 24 quid a day to drive in London. Yeah, congestion charge, as they call it in London, will, I would suggest, come into Dublin eventually. What would be magic right now is if they were to, instead of have congestion charge, you just need to discourage people from bringing a car in. And how to discourage is to give alternatives. That's how you discourage behaviour, right? So if you want people to stop smoking, you ban it in indoors, which you tell them it's okay to smoke, everywhere else is fine. So you're trying to discourage the behaviour by changing the way people are. So instead of saying, here's a congestion charge, so you can still drive into the city centre if you want, if you can afford to pay it, you can keep on driving. That's not a good solution. The way to do it is to kind of ban certain streets, and that brings people on a circular motion around the city centre. You just don't realise that are happening, but actually what you've done is you've changed behaviour. People will drive to a certain point, then you give them an alternative to go on any further. So the final mile will come into it, like scooters, electric bicycles, assisted bicycles, all these kind of things will come into it, and of course having electric buses, which should be the number one priority for Dublin Bus in the future, and for all nationwide buses, electric buses should be the way, and to have alternative means like the Laois to extend the line. We put a bit too much emphasis on Laois, not enough on buses, and we don't have enough security on buses either. Nigel Weir says, the magic, never go back to manual. M. Jones, Toyota is reportedly stopping development of V8s. At the same time, Ford and Ram are supercharging a V8 truck for 2021. Is that a good business decision for Toyota? Toyota know their market, and they have been quite invasive in the US market, although Ford in the F-150 and those kind of cars have dominated the American market for quite some time. Dodge, Ram, Ford, all those kind of big trucks have been there for a hell of a long time. And the American love of the V8 is still there. You know, it's an aspirational thing. People aspire to these big trucks, and if you've ever driven in America, you watch the size of the roads, the freeways, the speed limits. Speed limits there are 80 miles an hour. Like, that's where they live. They need something that can get there, but they also need a massive truck. Well, they don't need it, but they go for a massive truck. And if you've ever driven, which I have, in the back of a Prius in Texas, and then when them trucks overtake you, you do feel, even though you're in a Prius, which is a proper full-size European-sized car, and then a truck, an F-150 goes by, and you go, the wheel on the F-150 is bigger than this car. That's why everybody jumps into those trucks. So there is an element of that. It's probably not so smart. You know, you could push it to a certain point in America, but even America is starting to move over to this kind of green move. You look at where Tesla is in the sales market out there, they do distort their numbers quite heavily, Tesla, but their sales figures look pretty good. They're very strong in the market. Their pre-sales orders are pretty good on stuff. People are looking at that truck. Ford have done a deal with, the name escapes me right now, but an electric company who's making trucks out there as well, electric. So there is a point where they're starting to move over and shift into that zone where electric cars will start or electric trucks will start to move into America. But again, it's range. Anywhere you drive in America is far away. Everything you drive in America is far away. It's crazy. Like, it seems okay on a map until you actually start driving. Really, it's like 2 hours is this much of that country. You know, it's huge. Nigel Weir is, of course, is going to end up being banned, and you know it will be. I know it. I can smell it coming. You know that it's Nigel Weir is one of those people. Is that person who turns up every once in a while, changes their name, becomes, you know, me or someone I know. Anyway, my Golf R has a DSG that flips between 5th and 6th like that, so popped in manual most of the time. Yeah, that's a good idea. I do that as well, actually. And a lot of you click over the manual and just use the flappy paddle on the gearbox to do that. Gaurav says, speak in Hindi. If I don't know any other languages than English, and I can barely speak that, so I don't think Hindi is going to work at all. Anyway, I'm still up to no good here with my fiendish plan. It involved firing up the Doomsday PC, which has been booted up since the last 10 years, all to be revealed. What are you going to do? Nigel Weir is still going. We'll come back to him. Was just trying to inform by addressing a valid concern, was not dismissing. Apologies, good man, love the program. I know you love the program, it's great, but you have to be. I'm not giving an opinion. What I'm trying to do is represent the 96 or 7% of the market that's still petrol and diesel. What happens is the little 3% that is electric is very vocal because they're very techie people. And when I talked to the SIMI, and I was talking to car dealerships, and I was talking to manufacturers, and they tell me the status of the buyer. So what to do is they frame the buyer first. They always do this for journalists anyway. It's all at once. So they'll tell you the kind of buyer who buys that car. So if it's a Toyota Prius, they actually break it down to being predominantly male, lives this kind of lifestyle, earns this kind of money, dresses like this, lives in this kind of an apartment. They break it down that much. And 99% of who buys electric cars are in the older generation who are making a last change to a car and decide that this is the cheap way to own a car. And the rest of them is made up of tech people who work in the tech industry. They're either support for the tech, or they sell tech, or they work in somewhere like Google, or they work in somewhere like Facebook, and they're buying it because it's the latest thing and they have enough money to do it, and they're just making a change for it. So, but that's not representing the market. And any market analyst who looks at who is buying electric cars right now will tell you it's not a representative market of what the actual market is, what the actual car market is, which is a totally different thing. So I try to represent everything else, not the electric car market, because the electric car market represents itself pretty well. Mark Howells Prescott. Good afternoon, Bob. Hope you're well and safe. I am. Your video on the BMW 2 Series is great as always. Enjoy reviews on cars. Your top reviewer, 100 cars, Mark. Cheers, Mark. Very kind of you. We do try and represent everybody here. And the 2 Series is a good car, don't get me wrong. In its own little way, it's a good car. But in the back of it all, it's like, would I buy one? No. BMW can do better. A 3 Series for a start is one, but that 2 Series is a weird car. It looks funny too, funny enough. It just kind of looks kind of weird. My God, I'm now far behind. I thought it was going to be a quieter day, but it's not. Now 20 minutes to answer a million questions. It's always good. Niall McHugh. Public charging has a long way to go. Free charger at Decathlon. Needed an app. Then I needed the staff to use the RFID, the tag to start. Why the fuss if it's free? There you go. You see, that's what I'm talking about. Is you could go to 10 chargers in a day and they're all different, and you need a different app for every single one of them. This was the nightmare I was talking about the very first time I reviewed electric cars, and when I reviewed the Hyundai Ioniq the first time. This was the stuff I was talking about. Was the problem is the chargers are all different. Half them give you no information. I went to a charger at Junction 14 recently, which is a refresh brand new charger. I plugged in a car, I walked up, I tagged the thing, and the strip went red. Just red. It went from blue to red. And no information. My car went, car not charging. That's it. That's all the information I have to go on now. So now, do I phone the ESB and ask them what does the red line mean? Or do I unplug the whole thing and plug it all in again, and like restarting the computer? It's just stupidly confusing when it doesn't actually need to be. It can be really straightforward if you just put it through your Revolut app or your near field communication app on your phone, or a single card like the ESB card, and you go around, you just go bink, and everybody accepts the same card and you all get billed. It just makes life so much easier if you could do something like that. Philip Reese says, say it Elborn or Cooper Elborn. Yeah, Elborn anyway. I've seen it. There's a review of it, not a review, but there's a talk about it on my channel. I actually talked to the designer, Joaquin. Beautiful guy, really good guy. We had a lovely time talking to him. He's chief designer for Sage. He's a really nice chap. Met him a couple of times. He's a lovely talker. Nigel Weir says, eco drive mode on, electric pointless, just reduces your top speed, acceleration and aircon off. You get there slower, freezing, and batteries off. Why flows it not? Last 3 years never used. Invariably, your point is always made when you're driving along the motorway and you see a truck, and behind the truck is a Nissan Leaf driving along at 80, and they've got jackets on. Nissan, the Leaf, the original Leaf, did more damage to electric cars than any electric car has done ever since. And only because they were trying to change the world. That's literally it. They were doing their best, but their best made them look a bit weird when it came to normal petrol cars. You just go zooming by somebody and go, why is he driving so slow? Because they're trying to get as far as they possibly can on the tiny fucking batteries in the car. So that's why Nissan have done more harm than good for the electric cars, but they'll come back eventually, and the current Nissan Leaf is a bit difficult to drive. Oh, look at that. What have we got? Coffee? Yeah, we got coffee today from the wife. You're late. She's off at the shops. She's late. That's terrible. I need to drink me coffee. My voice just can't cope with 2 hours of talking anymore. Oh, yeah. Tiguan X looks very nice. Do you think VW will bring it to Europe? Says John Wynn. I don't know. There seems to be this kind of shift towards getting rid of big SUVs as well. You know, this idea, the Land Cruiser came out, and I've seen people, or Land Rover Defender came out, and I've seen people here in Ireland on Twitter going, God, what would that do for pedestrian safety? What would it do? And you kind of go, what the hell is all on about? Can we not just have whatever car we want anymore? No. So I don't know whether Volkswagen's going to do that or not, John, but it does look nice. Yeah, it would be a good old car here. Anyway, McPhee says charging port should be at both ends, sides of the car to socket and cable. Well, you can't drive the price up again, and they're already really expensive. And then you have cables running both ends of the... I mean, Audi did it. They've got a charging port on both sides of the car for the e-tron. It just depends what side you want to charge on, but the e-tron's nearly $100,000. Because again, what are you doing? More messages on Facebook. I don't get any messages on Facebook for God knows how long, and then I started starting. Everybody suddenly messages me on Facebook. I'll have a look at that after. Anyway, McPhee says parking spaces dead areas without flow of traffic, so are reversed into such areas. Those who reverse in and out of flow of traffic from parking space will be deported when it sees power. Who does parallel parking? Because I like doing it. I used to hate doing it, but I've practiced it so hard now I like it. I think it's pretty good now. You know, when you pull up alongside. Good tip I'll give you for parallel parking though. When you want to park, bring your left wing mirror in line with the car next to yours. Right? So go beyond the space, bring your two wing mirrors level, and then reverse into space. Makes it much easier. Mr. Sin, if you had 15 to 17k for a second-hand car, what would you buy? Looking for a hatchback. Out of hatchback range, do you know you could do worse than get a Prius, which I know you're going to jump down on me neck here right now, but you're literally ticking all of the boxes that you have for all of the EV thing, and you're future-proofing yourself against any congestion charges that might come in, weirdly. But 15 to 17k, really, you're going to be looking at Volkswagen Golf, say at Leon, Audi A3, Mercedes 1 Series, what's the small A-Class, BMW 1 Series. They're all the hatchback ones that are hanging about out there. Then after that, you're into the Korean brands like Kias and stuff. You could probably do worse than buy one of the Kia X-Ceed or Kia Ceed. They're pretty good in around that kind of price. You'd save yourself a package. You get a lot of kit in an old Ceed as well. Ocean Fergus says, agree 100%, always reversing a parking space, like getting out of trouble faster than I can get into it. That's same as me, aka tank driver character in Von Ryan's Express. That's what I like as well. I prefer to I know, you just take your time, reverse into a space, and it's a journalist thing as well. So if you watch when motoring journalists turn up to an event, everybody points and laughs at the person trying. Nobody wants to park in front of the rest of the motoring journalists, because we'll all start slagging you if your parking's no good, you know, if you don't park in the lines and get it all straight. But if you reverse into the space, you get out of jail free card. But if you go nose into the space, you'll definitely get a slagging immediately in any of them. It's been so long since I met up with the rest of the motoring journalist friends. Honest to God, a lot of those guys are mates of mine, you know. And now we only kind of meet on a Monday every once in a while. We used to meet each other at least once a week at some event somewhere, some car launch, not necessarily overseas, here in Ireland as well. And I kind of miss a lot of them guys because they're a good laugh and very knowledgeable. A lot of the guys are really, like, they know what they're doing. Theory of putting charge at the back and crash is not logical. You drive into someone and they will have problems charging. You could, like, if your charge port is on the front of your car and you rear end somebody and your charging port gets bent out of shape, if you can't open the thing or your cables aren't connected properly or it gets broke or whatever, you can't charge your car, then you're troubled by. Eric Watchard, I always reverse in and out of habit now. Car parks are deadly, especially with kids running behind cars and blind spots. My biggest fear in the supermarket car park. And you know what, car companies now are putting in cross traffic assist on your car, so when you're reversing out of a space that has got this, and it's very good, this beep 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 beep, the sound comes on, tells you the car is approaching from your side. But if you reversed into the space, you wouldn't need that. Simple as that. Nigel Weir said diesel engine just for peanuts, best fuel. Peanut oil was what Mr. Diesel originally invented the diesel engine to run on, was peanut oil, because it was more plentiful. And then he went, I can't get much of that anymore, so I have to change fuel. So diesel was born. Diesel is not an engine, by the way. Diesel is a person. You all know that, right? It was a man. Diesel is not. There's this diesel engine. It's not even diesel fuel. It's very different. It's the way the engine operates. It's a diesel engine because it uses compression to make the explosions rather than using spark plugs. That's kind of the only difference. Anyway, he got the idea from learning how to light a cigar by a compression system. a thing you pumped this yoke and it made the air move so fast that it actually was able to ignite things. And that's where he got the idea from. It's a great idea. VW ID3 out by 2022, only thing you'd be sure of. I think they're being delivered though, right? As far as I know, I've seen a few of them. There's ads everywhere for it as well. Annie McPhee says Cyprus is right on track. Correct. I stand corrected. Cyprus is the other country as well. Very low car sales in Cyprus though. Not another tie. It says my Golf R took 7 months. 7 months? Well, it is a Golf R. 4-wheel drive. Worth waiting for. I think they were growing the leather from newborn calves and shipped it via the Cape and Good Hope. Amazing car though. I think it was the sad that we would be disappearing with EV. I think it'll be sad to some degree. I think the point is the whole trick of this, like Audi's trying to pull that trick as well, so they're calling their cars, you know, the 50 on the back and all, to tell you how much horsepower the car has. So you don't really decide whether you want petrol, diesel or electric. You just decide how much horsepower you want, and that gives you the fuel. So there is an element of we're moving towards something. We're just not quite sure what that thing is, and there will be a point. I think once the market is 50% EVs and the other 50% is made up of others fuels, whether PHEV or water, but you got 50% of the EVs. I think the EV argument or velocity of thought from the EV people will die a death, because there's just so many of them, no one cares anymore. You know, it'll just happen. Then it'll come down to where the cars drive and how they feel, how they handle, or whether they're reliable, whether they're cheap to run, really cheap to run, which I actually suspect they're not really that cheap to run when you use them enough. They're probably a little bit cheaper than a diesel over time, but it would probably take you years to get if you include the difference in price to buy one in the first place, they're like 10 grand more expensive than the nearest petrol or diesel. And then you factor in that you have to pay for on-street charging, fast charging. You have to pay for servicing once a year, even though there's absolutely nothing to service on the car. You have to pay for the checks. The battery checks is all 120 quid. They all add up, you know. Everything adds up. And I actually heard the other day a woman who bought an EV and then found out that her insurance went up by €200 because she bought an EV over a petrol diesel car. Anyway, so it happens. Nigel Weir says, child labour true, connection of story with Elon Musk and Tesla. Yes, Elon Musk did sign an agreement recently with the government of Congo to supply cobalt. There's nothing like that's in the Financial Times. That's like a normal story. That affected the stock prices recently. Just like I'm not kind of throw away a comment on it. It's true. India is also right-hand drive. Is it? Is it though? Well, you know, I've seen enough videos of Indian driving to know that they just choose whatever side of the road it works on. There's a YouTube channel of a guy called Stray Bob. I've been following him for a long time, and he is currently walking across India. And it's quite interesting to watch the drivers move around him. It's quite good. It's worth a follow, actually. Stray Bob is the name of the channel. A blonde UK guy. He thumbed home from Vietnam to England, and now he's walking across India, which is very interesting. Jeff Carter says, hi Bob, my brother-in-law works for Audi UK, and the new orders they are currently taking, these won't be delivered until March or April next year. Wow. Great show, keep up the good work. Thanks Jeff. That is a long time to wait for your car, in fairness. Wouldn't you just, that's why you think the second-hand market, you know, immediately you go, well, why wouldn't I just buy a second-hand car? It's right there, you know, you could buy one out the forecourt right now. Hi, Paul Hickey says, hi Bob, did you watch a car show on Quest called Vintage Voltage, where they convert cars and bikes to EVs? A couple of Irish cars there, like the BMW 1602 and Land Rover Defender on it. I've been tweeting a lot of pictures of it. I keep missing it. I don't see much telly, to be honest with you. I see a lot of YouTube and stuff, but I don't really see a whole lot of telly, so it can be quite hard for me to catch these shows. I think I know one of the guys on the shows who presents it, but I keep missing these things. I will catch up at some stage on all those shows. It terrifies me to think of someone taking a classic car with a really good engine and ripping it out and putting in an electric engine. 99% of the point of having a classic collectible car is the repair of it. And I'll tell you now, and I know this because I know hundreds of people who collect classic cars and who go to events and things. And half the joy of driving them is breaking down. I know that sounds really bad, but that's half the joy of the thing, is is all your mates turning up to help you fix your car and all that stuff. And when you go electric, you're just detracting something from it. You're not really adding something to the mystique of the classic car. Okay, if it's broken and it's useless, well then do what you want with it. But if it's a fairly okay car, then no, leave it alone. Ocean Froggy is talking to him. Nigel, we're diesels for tractors? No, it's not really. It wasn't even invented for tractors. Tractors used to be all petrol. Every one of them. Go back far enough. All the Massey Ferguson yachts were all petrol. Diesel was a very late thing to the game, actually, when it came to diesel going into anything other than kind of delivery trucks and stuff. But the green diesel came around for agricultural diesel. That's what changed tractors into diesels, because it was cheaper, not because they're more economical. Actually, tractors aren't economical at all. Prince Stephen, Prince, are you a real prince? Really? Prince of what? Anyway, how do you see the world going from fuel to electric vehicles? I don't see the current generation accepting it with a wholeheartedness. Maybe the next generation will maybe go with it. What do you think? We're making a transition in fuels. It's going to take longer than the 10 years that everybody thinks it's going to happen. Just we'll all click a switch and we'll all be driving electric. The problem is supply and demand. There is a certain amount of demand there right now, but there's an awful lot less demand than it seems. The conversation seems to be heavily electric because all these guys are jumping up on stage to go, well, electric cars are just brilliant. They're the best thing to ever happen. Most of these people sell cars, and so their opinions can be dismissed because they're biased. And that sounds terrible, but I don't sell cars, so I don't care what car you buy. I just want you to buy the best car you can possibly drive today, you know, that suits your needs, that works for your family, that is low cost to you, or whatever it is that makes sense in your mind. We are moving towards another fuel. I suspect it's going to be a kind of blend for a long time, a sort of a blend of what you need. I think Audi's on the right trip at the moment. They'll probably mess it up on themselves, but I think they're actually on the right run, because there's a certain type of German person who will only be interested in diesel because all they want to do is 200 or 300 kilometers an hour down the Autobahn, and they just want to go to work and go home again, and they drive quite a long distance to do it. So they just want diesel. They're not interested in electric. They don't care until electric can go 1,000 kilometers, and then they might be interested. That's as far as it gets. But even electric cars that can do 500 kilometers today can only do maybe 300 kilometers if it's on a motorway. Motorways are a killer. It's the wind resistance, it's the pressure the car is under all the time. So there is an element of us changing over, and I think there will come a tipping point. It's probably 10 or 15% of the market where the conversation will switch and car companies will figure out what we're looking for, because I don't think we know what we're looking for. I think there's a lot of talk about electric cars, a lot of talk about changing fuels, but I'm looking out the window of my own house, and from here I can see 2 hybrids and 4 petrol cars, and then 2 diesels. And that's kind of, if you look around at the market right now, that's kind of it. 2, 3, 4% of the market worldwide is electric, and yet everybody's talking about them. So it's a weird place we're in right now. It's a revolution. We're going to look back at this time to know that we are going through a revolution of pretty much everything. It's like the fall of the Roman Empire. It's like the fall of the Egyptians. We think it happened overnight. The pyramids were built over a period of 900 years. You know, they didn't land from space by aliens. They were built over 900 years it took to build those things. And it took nearly the thick end of 500 years for the Egyptian society to break down because business took over. We're doing it again now. We are changing society now. We need to get rid of this politics, this political elite that hang out at the top, that are career politicians, that give you a phone number so you can tell on your neighbour because they're drawing the dole and doing a day's work here and there. You know, to give you that phone, that alert line, and these people that turn up at your house and knock on the door going, I think you've been working. But they don't give an alert line when a banker's destroying the economy. You don't give you a phone number so you can phone in and go, well, you know what, I think my local bank here is just absolutely draining all the money out of the economy and selling every house that they've got to vulture funds. Can I report that? Oh, no. No, that's not the way it works. He wears a collar, I'm afraid. So we're changing that now. We are working very hard now as society, trying to find a new way of doing society, a new way of behaving in society. The real answer, and you can take this to the bank, is to have less cars on the road. less cars. The problem is the volume of cars, not the output of the car. If you have our car market as 2.5 million units on the road, give or take, if you went down to 1.5 million, our CO2 emissions would fall like a stone, because a lot of people own a car because they think they're supposed to. They think they have to. They don't, not because they need it, just because they think they have to, because there's no alternative to it. There's no other way of getting around it. Anyway, that was a rant, wasn't it? Sorry. I'm glad you've survived that rant. Well done. You're still here. Congratulations. All 2,500 of you who have watched. You're brilliant. Thank you very much. Johnny Morris. In Shanghai last year. Shanghai, I'd love to go there. Two-door battery electric Chery EQ cost about 60,000 yuan. That's $8,655. It has a 40 kilowatt battery. This should tell us that EV here are rip-off. They are rip-off, 100%. I've been saying this as EVs come out. I've told you not to buy EVs. They're too expensive. You're being done on the price of them. They are just, and you're helping the market continue to do you. It's proven worldwide that every single time that they take the incentives off buying electric cars, that the market falls through the floor for them. So every single time that they say, here's 10 grand, go buy an electric car, people buy electric cars. Once the incentive ends, electric car sales fall through the floor. Straight away. Happens immediately. And it's happened every single territory, every single time. Happened in Norway as well. Everybody throws up Norway as being, well, look at Norway's adoption of EV. They're like the ones we hold up and we should beat you over the head with everything that Norway does because they're brilliant. Well, in actual fact, the car sales have fallen off a cliff there because it took away a lot of the incentives. And now, of course, the market has burgeoned and has reached its peak in Norway, and the sales are falling of EV there, so we're starting to get more EV sales here. But definitely, and I'll take this to the grave with me, when you look at a Hyundai Kona, one of the best-selling electric cars on the market in Ireland, and it's 49,000 euro for a tiny hatchback, and it is a tiny hatchback. That's insane. You're insane to buy one. If you get 10 grand off that and it's 39,000 euro, you're still insane. Did you look at the cars you can have for 39,000 euro on the market today? Petrol, diesel, PHEV, hybrids. Look at the cars. Look what you get in them. And then come back to me and tell me that the Hyundai Kona is even remotely good value. It's not. And I've said that in my video, if you've not watched it. And I said that about the Hyundai Ioniq. And I said about the price of electric cars across the board. They are too expensive. Johnny Morris continues. The 40 kilowatt Nissan Leaf here before grant starts at 37,000 euro and they claim the battery is very expensive. My point is made. All the shipping costs and everything else. OPEC are installing thousands of solar panels. OPEC countries will be running solar panel stuff long before we ever get to it. I'm telling you. Long before they are making all the changes. The OPEC countries that bought their way onto the board of management of all the battery companies. The OPEC countries will continue to rule because they have plenty of money. We put too much emphasis on how much money people have. We even gauge the entire market of a country by their GDP, which is essentially their gross domestic product, which is the output of the country on a grand scale of how much cash they make. We always do this. I don't know why we keep doing that, but we don't gauge a country on its political leanings, on its artistic nature, on the fitness of the community, nothing. Output, that's it. Peter says, hi Bob, did you see the new Chinese car Candy EV selling in the USA for $9,999? $9,999 with tax credits in some states. They are saying that they are looking to build in the USA as well. Wouldn't surprise me. The USA, its debts, its worldwide debts, the loans it has, almost all of that goes to China. So you can buy the debt of a country. It's called a bond. You could have bought Irish ones recently. You can still buy them. Every once in a while they sell off some bonds, which is effectively Ireland is saying, give us a lend of £1 million and we'll pay you back £1 million or two maybe in 10 years time. You just hold on to that bond there. That's essentially what the bonds are. And China bought basically everybody's bond. That's essentially what they do. Because the Chinese have never invaded a country by force. They invade by economy. They buy up all of the things in the economy because they have so much money. You meet them everywhere. Nigel Weir said petrol stations are closing at a very high rate. Petrol stations are closing because they're taxed out of the world and they don't actually sell a lot of petrol. Cars are a lot more fuel efficient than they ever were, and now petrol stations have converted to become service stations where you turn up and you get your dinner and your lunch and your sleep, and you can have showers, and hotels are all attached to petrol stations, and they make money from that way. But if you're not big enough to do that, the mom and pop petrol station, the old kind of newsagent with a little tiny petrol station out in front that sold a couple of litres of diesel a week, just can't afford to exist anymore because of tax, insurance. It just costs so much money to run a diesel station that you have to be forking out money everywhere. But if they're closed, they're taking the electric charge points with them, because that's where the charge points will be going into, because a charger, a fast charger, is anywhere from 16 to 20 grand to install one, and who's going to do that if they can't make money from it? John Dunn just drove Kerry to Dublin in an e-Soul, 270 kilometres a ride with 140 kilometres range remaining. Not all EVs are spancelled by range. No, 100% all EVs, essentially, well, apart from the Leaf maybe, but essentially all EVs that are on the road at the moment could easily do that kind of journey. That's not a big deal of a journey. But if you had to turn around and drive back to Kerry, or you had to, at the moment, had to go back the direction you came, or like I drove the mini EV from Dublin to Portlaoise. From a full charge down to Portlaoise, I would have had to charge it to go back the other way. So it's a bit of a problem there. You know, if you have to do that, if that's your job, if you require that kind of distance, you're never going to convince someone out of a diesel to get into an electric car if they have to charge it at their end. So unless everybody, and e-Soul is my favourite, all-time favourite electric car, still sits there as my favourite electric car at the moment, apart from a Model 3 Tesla, but they're a little bit different in price. And I voted as Irish Car of the Year last year, so it's definitely one of my favourite ones. No problem with range, but the problem is if you want to continue your journey, eventually you're going to have to charge that car, and that's where the speed of the charge becomes an issue. Even at fast charge, 35-40 minutes, you know, it's still a problem, and it's expensive. Buses should all be EV charging at stops. Well, buses should just all be EVs. I mean, it's very easy to either have gantry over your head that has lines on it. We've had this for years and years, right? Years and years. All over Europe, you'll see those kind of buses with the electric lines. Now, that kind of street furniture is messy and it can look rotten if you don't do it properly, but it's definitely there. You could easily put those in for city buses all over Dublin. Simples. And you have nothing to do. You could even convert the buses you've already got to do that. So, really straightforward stuff. Alan Acaster says, minded S-Max and Galaxy in the same platform. Now Ford have pulled out of saloons in the USA and Australia, and European cars are not viable for new platform, so will die. That's true. This has been a fight that has been going on in the background between Ford Europe and Ford USA, as Ford USA tried to enforce the USA message on Europe, and they even sent Mr. Ford himself over to do that. You know, they've done it. And yes, European market will tell you that Ford are going to struggle for the next few years to get anywhere. And even their latest Kuga has been recalled as fires have taken place while it's charging. Now, I don't know the cause of that fire, but they know that they say don't charge it. It happens when it charges. So that's just ammunition, you know, again, to be used against Ford. Trucks market protected in the USA. Chicken law, the reason. Needs somewhere to keep your machine gun. James Wilson, Bob, what do you think of the new Ford Bronco? Pity it's not coming here. Bronco is still got that name, boys. That's the problem with Bronco. Still, you think of Bronco, and your first thought, if you're anywhere near my age, is a white Ford Bronco driving through the streets of LA with a whole heap of cops behind it, which is still the problem. But it looks deadly, doesn't it? I actually tweeted a picture of that recently. It really looks the part. It looks deadly. I hope they bring it out here in Europe, but they probably won't, because it's a huge big thing. The Irish Guy Vlogs is another channel here. I haven't seen you before. Hi Bob, good to see you back. I'm in the process of buying my first car. Any recommendation for a small car, 1.4 or smaller? I've heard 1.2 petrol engines can be a bit iffy. Any ideas? Small engines are not iffy if they're minded. Any engine is good and will be good for 100,000 kilometres at least, if not twice as much, once they're minded. The problem is, small cars tend to be bought by first-time drivers who are buying them from people who didn't mind them, and so the car inevitably breaks down. I would start looking at the Korean or the Japanese brands if I was going to kind of start out my first car, or just starting out with cars in general, because they tend to be a little bit more forgiving on you, and they tend to be bought by people who mind cars. So if you buy like a Kia Ceed, you get them in 1.2. The Hyundai i20, is it, or i10 or something? is in there as well. Ford Fiestas are a good bet, even though it's not Korean, but they're still a good bet. There's tons of them around as well. So there's a few of them. Like, there's a few different brands out there, but most important part is buy something that's suitable for you. Check your insurance before you buy it. Price a set of tires for it before you buy it, and then price of tires. I'm telling you, tires will break your hole when it comes to the price of them when you want to change the car, and then make a bid on your car. Don't go mad and buy the thing up front. Stiggy says, I know not everyone can charge at home, but that's the cheapest and easiest way to charge a EV. Yes, it is by far. Don't know how long that will last, in that energy prices do go up and down quite regularly, and the energy regulator here could just as easily stick 8 or 10 cent onto a unit of electricity, and all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more expensive. And that could particularly happen when the extra draw goes on the, if everybody's driving an EV, we have an extra draw on electricity overnight. So it'll all be driven into night rate meters and all that, which costs more again. Mini Eggs, hi Bob, just out enjoying the countryside, and we'll check the action replay later in 2 series review. As you said, the wireless Apple CarPlay works really well, and that has obviously improved. Yeah, it has improved. Still can be iffy. And I'll tell you where wireless Apple CarPlay becomes iffy is when you pull up somewhere. Say you're just ducking into the shop to get something, right? And you turn off the car and you get out and you get back in, you turn back on the car, and it's only like a few minutes have passed or a minute has passed. There seems to be a confusion. The phone's not sure whether it's been cut off or not, or I don't know. It just doesn't seem to want to come back on as quick as plugging it in. It seems to reset the whole thing. So it's still a little bit iffy, but it's getting better. I wouldn't pay a fee for it. If Apple CarPlay was rented and it was wireless, was like a yearly fee you had to pay, I wouldn't buy it. And funny enough, Tesla hasn't got it at all. CarPlay. Annie McPhee says, I've returned to give my fibre a workout and half there. You have a short video clip in your Facebook. You can view it quickly on phone or something and all be revealed. Am I supposed to look at this now, live on air? I'm supposed to look at this video now. What the? This better be brilliant, McAfee. I'm telling you now. Has anyone published subtitles? No, did I want for it? Because I can. I'm going to look at it while I'm live on air. You're watching me. Oh my God Almighty. Hold on, I'll try and turn the size of maximum. Can I do this? Make it bigger on the screen? I can, yeah. So Annie McAfee just sent me a video of his setup at home, which is me everywhere. You're watching all them things. That's really good. Andy's got like 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, he's come out to the last shot, which is like of the big screen TV. Come on, I like it. A bit mental, but good. Yes, that's being into your you're definitely a flavonite. I'll give you that. You're definitely a flavonite. Agree 100%. Ocean Froggy, agree 100%. Roaming is needed for chargers. Simple use. Just contactless payment to start. No draft apps, no proprietary fobs or RFID cards. That's since they've come out. I've said that. We were in a brilliant position when they started first. ESB card was the only card. And you just signed up with ESB and you got your card, and that was it. That's all you needed. Now we have Ionity, we have Decathlon, we have these other ones that are in Lidl, we have these, and they're an Irish company, I think, and then there's another one that's coming into the market, and then there's other apps for finding these charge points, then there's other apps for, it just makes no sense to have all these different suppliers and all vying for your attention. All you want to do is put fucking fuel in your car, like it's, and all petrol stations are the same. They're all over the place, but the fuel's the same, and how you start and stop it is all the same. You just put the thing in, pull the trigger, and then pay. It doesn't really matter. They're all exactly the same thing. BMW, like many others, do main models quite well, 3 and 5 series, but gets all muddled when they try to cover all the other bases and move them what to do well, such as from rear wheel drive to front wheel drive. That's true, Eric Orchard, you're dead right. The move to front wheel drive has been slow and gradual in BMW, and they've slowly ruined the cars by doing it. It's a real pain in the ass. I parallel park Arctics to show people up and buses. Agree 100% on Nissan doing more damage to the public confidence in EVs despite being an early pioneer. No thermal battery management, poor early generation batteries. Yeah, and now Nissan is the whipping stick for anybody who likes petrol cars. Just keep going, well, look what Nissan did. They ruined the market. So they're the whipping stick constantly. Even when they came out with their proper second generation of the car, they still made a balls with no thermal battery thing in it. You could only fast charge it 1.5 times to 2 times a day, which is not something you'd normally do, but it just showed it up as being bad tech. We're at 4 already, and I still have more questions to go. I'll get through them though. Marty O says there's a guy who lives on a busy road in Dublin 4, and he has a turntable driveway. Drives into his house, presses a button, and the car spins around the face. Absolutely brilliant. You know, if you have money, I suppose you can entertain yourself all day by just flipping your car around. Well, it'd be good if that was secret. So when your neighbours come around, they park face in, but when they come out, the car facing the other direction, they don't know what happened. That would be some crack. What's your attitude to self-driving? It's a money-making years away, 30 years, maybe even longer, before we really have a car outside the doors. You just sit in and go, work, and it goes. Because if anything, the roads are completely wrong for self-driving cars most of the time. The only place self-driving actually works on a motorway. Really does. I know Tesla are doing their autopilot, but really it's so dangerous, so very dangerous to do that without other people around you doing the same thing. If all the cars on a road were self-driving, you might have some chance. But realistically, trying to, like, if you look at Europe, even look at Ireland, when you drive from place to place, you could be on a road surface that's tarmac to concrete to cobblestone, and all within 300 meters of each other. You know what I mean? It's this crazy situation of how does an automated system deal with that? Some places there's lines, some places there's no lines. Some places there's a curb, like going near a pier where there's nothing. There's the pier, and then there is water. That's it. There's no sign to tell you one way or the other. So I don't think we're going to see anything even remotely like good self-driving stuff that you can just get in. You go out in the morning with your cup of coffee, sit in the driver's seat or sit in the back seat or sit inside the cabin and go, take me to work, Jarvis, and the car just drives there. I think that's going to be 20 to 30 years from now. Our Toyota Prius comfortable in a long journey, says Marky Mark. Yeah, they are. Yeah, Toyota Prius is a good car. It is. It's a lovely car, and all generations have been pretty good. I know they have a stink of, well, there's just a little battery in the thing, but they're actually all right to drive. They're a nice enough car to get around in. They're a bit plasticky inside. They're a little bit wishy-washy on the handling and things, but they're actually okay. They work, and if you're stuck in a place that has congestion charges, it gets around it. That's why nearly every taxi or a mini cab in London is a Prius. Owen MacDonald says it's Kelly's Heroes where Oddball likes to get his tank off out of trouble quickly, not Von Ryan's Express. Kelly's Heroes is one of the greatest movies of all time. Clint Eastwood is in it, and the bit where they fire paint shells at the it's just brilliant. Look it up. Kelly's Heroes comes from the 70s or 60s. I can't remember, 60s or 70s. It's about the Second World War, about the kind of factual actually. The Nazi Germany was putting lots of paintings and things into banks to mine them that would belong to the Jewish population, and the Americans came in and got wind of this gold bullion that might be hanging around certain banks and attacked the towns and took the money. Also, worth a look is I'll get into conspiracy theories for you now, but here we go. Operation Paperclip is a real thing as well, where the Americans found out that the Germans, who had employed many Jewish people and lots of other scientists as well, but many of them who had made the buzz bomb, the rocket propelled buzz bomb that was used just at the tail end of the war. The Americans targeted where those scientists were hanging out. The Americans went in, stole all the scientists, brought them back to America in a thing called Operation Paperclip, and that's when NASA was made. So NASA is the result of German scientists. The rest of the ones who didn't quite make it were in Argentina. So there you go. That's a little bit of information. That's all the stuff you find out about when you roam around the internet enough. Actually, just years of studying Second World War. MG EV has a reversing protection thing. Whatever happened to careful driving? Everybody has a reversing protection thing these days. Pinging on the back or cameras or drones over your head or whatever it is. On holidays in Portugal with the first flight Friday morning. Lived north, so sunny. In Portugal? You're in Portugal? Is that on the green list? Is that safe? Should you be there? India's right-hand drive, yes. Raymond Grace, I have been to India. They do drive on the left side, as we do in the normal rules of the app. The rules of the road are ignored. Yes, that's true. In India, I've seen these Indian people driving, and they seem to just make up their own mind where they're going. Everybody drives a scooter as well, which is really probably handy. You won't get the lovely smell of an old petrol mix from an EV. Always bring back memories when you step into a classic. You know, my favourite thing of all is when you're... it's a unique position I'm in, but sometimes I'm allowed into like museums that don't exist, or cars that are kind of under tarps and stuff. There's nothing nicer than when you open that coach-built door of some old-fashioned Rolls Royce or something from the 30s. And there's a smell of wood and leather and Bakelite and stuff that just, and oil and greasy nipples and things, you know, just this stuff gets you. And it's that kind of smell that absolutely fascinates me, because it's never replicated. I've never seen it as an air freshener or something, you know. It's old car smell as an air freshener. I've never seen that. Flying through stuff, we're nearly there. ATC Kildare, great seeing new car sales up in July. Registration is down due to no car hire. Media seem to confuse registrations and sales, but the data is there on SI on my website. Well, registrations and sales are two very, very different things. Registrations is pre-regging, so that's the car company registering a certain amount of cars. Those cars aren't necessarily sold, they've just got reg plates assigned to them. Actually, in some cases, those cars aren't even in the country, just assigned reg plates against VIN numbers. Whereas car sales is physically someone handing over money and they drive off the car park in that car. That's a car sale. So media doesn't really confuse it. It's car companies that blur the lines when they say the registrations are up by 2.7%. Really easy to do. Right. Orders a Peugeot E208 based on your review. I'll get back to you. Good man. E208, one of my favourite electric, shorter range electric cars in the market. Looks super, and I really do mean looks super, particularly if you order it in like green or orange or something mental colour. It takes colours very, very well. That is, we have been on for I don't know how long, a long time we have been on for right now. It is 4:20. Oh yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes, nothing like it. It's been a really, really good Sunday service. Thank you very much for joining. You're very kind to join me again. I will not be here next Sunday, so you have next Sunday off. Relax, stay in bed, go watch Formula 1 or play golf or whatever it is. Just don't congregate. Wear a mask every once in a while, will you? Particularly when you go into a shop or an enclosed environment in some way, stick a mask on you. Just let's all get through this, because we will get through this. You know, we'll go back to normal eventually. It's brilliant. We'll have a new normal, but it'll be a normal of some sort. And I'm looking forward to that, because I need to get back to something that approaches something useful. Thank you very much for joining me. You can find me on TikTok, Bob Flavin Official. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me from time to time on Facebook. I do not recommend you going too much heavily into Facebook, because it will blinker you and it will harm your idea of what it is to be a human being. I would advise you to go outside and meet people. Talk to people, talk to your neighbours, find out who they are. We're all in this together, unless your name is a politician. If you're a TD, you're probably not in the same place as I am, but the rest of you are okay. I look forward to see what next week will bring us, because last week has been hilarious. I've really enjoyed that. So, look after yourselves. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.